to order the workshop for Bullhead City School District Board on Thursday, April 17th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Roll call. Present Melinda Sabrowski.
Charlene Diaz here.
Fred Rushton here.
I know who it is.
Barb Zarzicki here.
Judy Reed here.
Okay. Item 1.3, policy advisory for BAAEB, evaluation of school board self-evaluation. That's us.
So, Madam President and board members, this is an exhibit. So it's one of those things that you don't have to vote on, but I told you that I would continue to bring things forward that are exhibits and resolutions.
Remind me when we are supposed to do evaluation. Doesn't say on there.
No, just once a year.
I couldn't remember last
What's
night when I
this
went through
thing?
this stuff.
What's the
Remember?
BBEA?
When are we
That's
supposed to
the-
I think it's mid-school year? No, because the board school year the board members' school year starts in January. I'm thinking November, October, November.
Seems to me it is late.
Yeah, it's later.
I couldn't remember when I was going through this, and I
Yeah.
could not remember. I thought, oh, I should probably know that. Item 1.4, policy advisory of IHA, Basic Instruction Program. I had a question on this one.
Okay.
It says, don't go too fast. I think it's up at the top. Something about, oh, there you go, July 1, 2022.
Yeah, so when they update the policies, when ASBA updates the policies relative to the state law, they'll reference the date that's in the law.
Okay. Okay, but we're in compliance, right?
Yes, we are. And then, Cass, if you'll scroll down to see any changes. Okay, so you
Yeah,
can
the
see
changes
there
were-
a couple of the changes.
Yeah, I just had a question on the date.
Yeah.
Just needed that explained.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. That's another thing we don't have to vote on, right?
not yet, and it's in the agenda because it'll be first reading, so you won't vote on it tonight anyway. But we try to bring them to you in the workshop so you can have some discussion if you want.
Okay, policy, item 1.5, policy advisory of JLIF, sex offender notification.
So they added some wording.
Have we ever had a child who was actually an offender, not an offendee, but an offender? At this-
Well, it's not the child so much, it's the offenders, and they're saying to us when we have to be notified and when we have to notify parents.
But down here
It's-
it says the juvenile is adjudicated delinquent, C?
Oh.
C?
Not in my memory, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
I don't
And we've
remember
certainly
either.
there have certainly been some investigations in the past. We do get regular, just for the, relative to those things that are underlined, we get regular information from the police department about sex offenders, and we share those then with the principals at the sites so that they're aware. In the past, as I recall, level 1 offenders, we didn't even get the notices for. We only got for above a level 1. But now they are sending us any of them, the information about any sex offender.
We don't put it out on social media.
No, we do not. We do not.
I was reading in the newspaper that people are getting kind of nasty with people.
Yeah, no, we don't put it out, but we do notify our principals.
Yeah, of course.
For a couple of reasons. One is to kind of keep an eye on who comes on our campuses. But the other thing is there are very, very occasional instances where a parent is one of the people on the list. And so that just means that the school has to be very careful about when that person's on campus. Not that they can't be, but being careful about when they are.
Any questions on any of this stuff? I was just trying to move through it quickly. Item 1.6, the District Integrated Action Plan and Parent Involvement.
This is,
That's a huge packet.
it's a huge packet of things because Jen's been working hard on this, and we have to have a public meeting, and so it was a good opportunity to share the information with you as a board, and then if there are any families or anybody present, they have input. So it's up to Jen.
Did everybody get a packet? Did you guys all get one of these?
Yes.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
We are required every year to have what they call a Title I meeting, and in the past we've struggled with getting parents to attend. So that's why we like doing it during the workshop, because at least we have the opportunity for people to see us on YouTube and in person. So that's why we have moved it to you. So every year we're required to do an integrated action plan. And the integrated action plan is actually part of the Title I. So we do get Title I funds. Title I funds are determined by the percentage of students who qualify for free or reduced lunch. Even though we are CEP, which means all of our students receive free breakfast and free lunch, we still have to have all of our families fill out a form for our official percentages, right? And then the funding is determined based on each school's percentage. So within Title I, it's used to improve the academics of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, those that are at risk. Okay, so things we can purchase are like supplemental materials to help the teachers and the students in the classroom, family engagement activities, meetings, and then salaries, benefits, thing. A lot of resources. We buy a lot of resources for our classrooms through Title I. So as part of the action plan, this is what we start in February. So all of our teachers get together and they form committees to look at specific rubrics and things that ABE requires us to do. One piece is to look at these specific 8 questions. And so they determine based on their individual school data, student achievement, they can look at discipline, attendance, where we fall based on these 8 questions. It's a very thick rubric that they do go through, so I did not print that for everyone. Okay.
You guys keep your eye on this 0, 1, 2, 3, because I think the next slide, it took me a while to figure that out too last night.
Okay. All right, so after every school completes that rubric, they also develop goals and they develop action steps. So as a district, we take a look at all of the school plans to create a plan for the district that supports what the schools need. The numbers that are on the side are the average of our schools. So each school rated themselves in each of those 8 categories, and then that's the average of all 5 of our schools. Coyote Canyon does not have to do this because they are not a Title I school, because they're mostly preschool. So the 3 areas that I highlighted are the lowest places, that our schools rated themselves. Okay.
What do the numbers stand?
So this is just what it looks like. This is how I organize it so that I know and kind of see. So each school's goals, I know it's very small, is at the top in kind of a salmon color, and that's their goal. So this would be for math. So that's their goals based on last year's state assessments, and then where they want to be at the end of next year. And so you can see in the green how they rated themselves in each of those 8 questions, and then the action steps that they chose for math. The state wants us to only do 3 to 5 action steps per subject area. So they want a goal and action steps for math, and a goal and action steps for ELA or English Language Arts, Our two schools, the Bullhead Middle and Fox Creek, test for science, and so they have goals for science. And then we have one school, Fox Creek, that is under improvement for their special education students because they're not progressing as much as the state would like them to. And so they have goals for special education. It's a lot.
Go up to, excuse me. The SIAP, what is?
SIAP, that's the school integrated action.
Okay. And then basically these are the goals for that the schools have set, right?
Yes.
Okay, I want to come back to this later, okay? This screen. Okay.
Okay. So this is math. Do you want to move on for that?
Jen, could I also make a comment about those?
Of course.
It used to be that the state said, oh, you need to set goals as high as possible, as high as possible. Finally, somebody realized that you kind of defeat the purpose if you set goals that are unrealistic. And so they really encouraged us to do more like SMART goals. So is it something that's attainable? So you want to stretch, but you don't need to have, you don't want to go from 15% in something and say our goal is 70%, because that's pretty unrealistic. So, while these are not necessarily a goal, the percentages might not exactly be where we want them to be eventually. They're realistic in terms of, okay, with a stretch, can we make these goals? Okay, thanks, Jim.
And so this is the same thing for ELA, English Language Arts. Now, when the schools rate themselves, they don't rate themselves like once for math, once for ELA, once for science. It's an overall rating, so you'll see the numbers are the same on all of the spreadsheets. Two schools for science.
No numbers?
No, I didn't. That's my laziness, maybe. I didn't put the numbers in the.
You're just busyness.
Yeah. And then Fox Creek is the only one that has the CSI is comprehensive support and improvement, and that's for special ed.
And this is the SPED goals, right?
Yes.
What are FAY students?
So those are students who are here, so they measure like last year and then their growth to the next year. So students have been here for a full year.
Okay.
Or two, like you get points if they're here for 2 or 3. Unfortunately, because our schools only have 2 testing grades at each school, we don't get all the points that you could get because you can get up to 3 if they're there with you for 3 years. So none of our schools have students that test for 3 years, unless maybe they're retained, which is a very small number.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. No, go back to the PowerPoint. There we go. Okay. So from all of that information, we met Dr. Stewart, myself, Amanda Eamon, Kate Hall, and then Cherie, who was our homeless liaison, all met to go over what the schools did and create a district plan. So this is for math, what our goals are for math.
Now, these aren't just Title I goals, these are for the whole school, right?
This is for our district, so this is our district.
Okey-dokey.
They call it an LIEP, which is like Local Integrated Action Plan. District is Probably better.
LEA is local education agency, so that's why it's just the L.
So we've separated K2 because they don't test on the state assessment, and so, we do have a new assessment program we're going to use next year, so based on that, we would like 70% to be proficient or higher, in K2. If we can get our K2 students there, then the rest, it'll be easier for the teachers and helper grades to get them where they need to be. Taking an average of what the schools had for their AASA or their state assessment from last year, so spring of last year to spring of 2026. We're looking at that 21% growth. And then also a special education goal, and then for our homeless students as well. And so then after doing that and looking at what the schools had for their action steps, you can see our 5 action steps on the side. A lot of them are similar for math and ELA and a couple for science. We're still looking at unpacking the standards and making sure teachers know what is expected of students. We did mostly concentrated on ELA and math this year, although we got better as we went. So we need to go back and review those that we did at the beginning of the year. To add the things in that we learned later, to add into our unwrapping. We will be spending less time though. So this year we spent half of every PD day as a district teams unwrapping standards, and next year we're looking at an hour and a half or 2 hours. So that gives some time back to the schools but continue the unwrapping. And continuing with coaching. One big piece that was common across all schools for both math and ELA was MTSS, which is multi-tiered system of support, which means we strengthen the core program, which all students receive. Then we strengthen tier 2 for those that still are struggling after main whole group instruction or whole class instruction, and that's usually done in small groups by teachers. And then increasing our efficiency in tier 3, which is Title I instruction, EL, and special education. So although we have things, we don't really have a really strong program of even resources and just a procedure in place. And so that's something that we really are looking to improve, which will also help with those areas that were starred on the other page. That was aligned instructional practices, intervention for students not demonstrating mastery, and then also providing enrichment for students who already mastered.
In number 5, you say create a position. Is this an additional instructional coach that we're going to be looking at?
Yes, this is an instructional coach, but only for special education teachers.
Okay.
And it's not a new position. You all approved it 2 years ago, I think, and the issue is we've not been able to find somebody to put in that position, so we've kind of had it on hold. So we're bringing it out again, and we're hopeful that we can find somebody who's qualified to be in that position.
Originally, it was to be for special education teachers and EL, but finding someone who has expertise in both is difficult. So, and then narrowed it down. Our EL teachers are doing really well. We have outside coaching for them already through Title III grant, and so we decided it's more fun to concentrate on our special education teachers. Now ELA, these are our goals as a district for ELA.
What's VOY and EOY?
Beginning of year and then end of year. Nope, good, you have to remind me.
I just,
Yes.
after I said that, I thought, oh, that was,
Okay. And so they were developed in the same way, looking at the proficiencies that we already had last year, and looking at what the schools had as their goals and determining what we needed as the district. When the action steps are very similar, the pieces that are different would be a screener for ELA for 7th and 8th grade. We have a lot of things in place for our K-5, well, K-4, and then this coming school year, we have things in place for 5th and 6th grade. We need to get some things for 7th and 8th grade, for them to better kind of narrow down what students need when they're struggling. And then something we learned, Amanda, even through monitoring things, we learned that we're supposed to be providing compensatory services for our EL students. So if they're not mastering the state standards based on either our benchmarks and or our state assessment, we're supposed to be offering them additional support. Now they are invited to our after-school program and they are to receive their targeted minutes and things during the school year, during the school day. But we are supposed to be providing additional outside of what we provide to anyone else for those students. So currently we do 2 days of after-school program for all of the students that would like to come. And so we're adding an additional 3rd day that would be only for EL students.
And those programs are voluntary? They don't have to come, but they're voluntary? The after school?
They're invited, encouraged, but it's not mandatory.
What is the percentage of attendance?
The elementaries do a lot better than probably the middle and the junior high. As they get older, it's harder to get them here.
Okay. And who runs the after school?
The principals do a lot of the running of the program.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. So in the past, we had our 21st Century grant, and so we had an actual coordinator at every school, and we don't have that anymore. So they look at their data, they determine which students need to attend, they invite those students, and the teachers help invite those students to tutoring.
So the teachers do not attend that after school at all?
They
to help.
teach. They teach.
Oh, they do?
And they're paid $35 an hour stipend for after school.
Oh, okay.
So here's science. We will be piloting 2 science programs next year. So next year is our last year. We're contracted with Amplify. Teachers are not happy with Amplify. They don't feel like it's rigorous enough. They feel like they need to reach out and grab additional materials to teach the standards. So we are going to pilot 2 new programs next year in hopes that we find a better program that better matches the state standards and supports teachers and our students better than our current program does. The community engagement for the district, we're always looking to engage our parents in more academic things. So coming to board meetings is one, but also it's outside of the fun things like the carnivals and those things. We want to get our parents involved in some of the more meat and potatoes kind of things, so they know how to support their students at home. It's something that we had in the plan for this current year, and we didn't do the best for multiple reasons. So we had not excuses; it just didn't happen. We had plans to do power school training. And had a list of 4 things we were going to do something quarterly, and it fell through. So we're going to make sure that we do that next year. So the parents are better. Any comments, ideas, questions, suggestions, anything you'd like to see that isn't on there?
When you say the district will engage 20% of our parents, does that mean actually having 20% in attendance, or is that meaning reaching out to 20%?
That means over the course of the school year, having 20% of our parent population attending at least one of our events. So it's based on attendance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're saying about 400 parents will have attended an event throughout the year?
A minimum of, yes. Right, so then parent involvement procedures, not really a policy, we can't really call it a policy. But we do have, and that's the packet you have here, and then maybe if you're looking at it, that's in the back, it's in the back. This is kind of a compact that the try to engage parents. Schools also do one, and they meet with their site councils about their plan. But one thing we are noticing is that I don't know if either we're not providing the type of things parents want, or if there's additional supports that we can provide for parents so that they can attend. And so that's kind of the info we're looking for. We do surveys, and so I know I'm looking at our survey, which just closed, so you should have that data at our next board meeting. But in looking at some of the results, some of it is, lack of childcare. So it's hard for them to attend some events if they don't have childcare for their littler ones, or they don't want to bring their students with them. Transportation seems to be another barrier for a lot of our parents that are doing that. Is there any way that we're not reaching parents that they want to be reached, or?
I was just thinking.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. Item 1.7, adjourning the workshop. Do I have a motion to adjourn the workshop?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the workshop.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All those in favor? I'm Melinda Sabrowski.
I, Charlene Diaz.
I, Fred Rushton.
Hi, Barbara Zarzicki.
Hi, Judy Reed.
Okay, we have about 3 minutes before we go into a full meeting. I call to order the regular meeting of Bullhead City School Board on Thursday, April 17th, 2025, at 6 p.m. Roll call. Present Melinda Sobrowski.
Charlene Diaz here.
Fred Rushton here.
Barb Zarzicki here.
Judy Reed
Would
here.
you guys please stand and say the pledge with me? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I hope
Do we have any
citizens
call to the
present,
public? No, no calls to the public, so, go ahead, I'm sorry.
everybody signed in, right? Did everybody out there sign in?
Yeah.
We don't have any of that stuff. So we're on item 2.6. And this is donations. Mhm. Thank you. We needed 9 more blue chairs. They were good blue chairs? Were they teacher chairs?
I'm sorry, I don't know, Kate sounds like she knows.
Sorry, they're big people chairs.
Okay, that's what I thought maybe. Yeah.
Like, you know, we got some big kids and big teachers, so.
Yeah.
And we're at a school with
Really?
tiny kids and tiny chairs.
You don't like sitting on the floor, huh?
Yeah.
Going down's not bad, it's gonna back up, right?
That was nice of Legacy to do that for us. And is it Rudnick?
Dowick, I think, it's
Dowick.
Wodowick, okay. What kind of books were these? Does anybody know?
Big books.
What were they?
Children's books, so like in preschool, they
Oh,
have
for
what's called a big
preschool,
book.
okay,
And so it was preschool big books.
okay, all right.
We're signing right now.
We're all about the big stuff right now.
Big chairs, big books, we're in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lance, since you're sitting here with us, thank you very much for the donations of your materials. That was really nice of you. Lenore Nelson, wow. So where did we put the TV that she donated?
I don't even know, I'm sorry. It's at middle school, so I don't know where at middle school.
It's not in the teacher's lounge?
I don't think so, no. Mm-mm.
Okay, I really wish to thank everybody, and I'm sure that this is not the complete list, that there are people.
No, I
that-
think we have some things that are not on there.
Yeah,
I'll,
I'm sure.
I'll get Cass smacking people around to submit the forms, because I know we have some other things.
Yeah, I'm sure that the community is.
I know,
definitely-
she's been doing it, I'm just giving her a hard time. I know that we have an employee who has donated a number of the glass, like whiteboards, only they're
Mhm.
glass, to the district, and kind of refuses to turn in the donation sheet. But at this point, I mean, we've got the nice big 8-foot one in here, and we have 6-foot ones and 3-foot or 4-foot ones at, particularly at Fox Creek.
And every time somebody does something like that, you give them a thank you.
Absolutely, we give them a thank you, but sometimes they won't fill out the little form.
Well, I really appreciate this, and I think that everybody on the board appreciates those who
yes.
donate to the schools.
Yep.
It's just those little nice things that
Yep.
we don't normally provide. Item 2.7, adoption of the agenda. I need a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight.
I make a motion, we adopt the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? I'm Melinda Sobrowski.
Hi, Charlene Diaz.
I, Fred Rushton.
Hi, Barb Zarzicki.
Hi, Judy Reed.
I was looking at this last night and looking forward to this. I just want to
Yes.
see what these guys have done. And obviously, they've done some good stuff. So, we're ready
Ms.
for-
Hall, would you introduce your crew?
Oh,
Because I know it's more than
yes.
just the students presenting, but so it would be nice for the board to know the other folks as well.
Good evening. Tonight we have the Life Academy, a couple Life Academy students with us to show you guys some of the things they've been doing. They've been working this last semester real heavily on research projects. So they've done various different projects so far this year. We've had some projects on, right now they're doing cities. They like picked a city within the United States and they have to do a whole research project on the city. They've done body systems. What else do they do?
Debate.
Oh, they've done debates.
Debate.
And so with me over here in the corner, I have Miss Johnson and Miss Downing. They're two of the paraprofessionals that work within the program. Miss Ashley Pierce, we stole her from preschool. She was a preschool para, and then she joined the dark side with us. I have Mr. Schnabel, he is our teacher extraordinaire. And then I have Owen and Cecilia, who are both 8th grade students this year, have been with us for quite a while, and they're absolutely phenomenal at what they do. And they wanted to share with you. They actually volunteered to share and to come present tonight with you. We asked all of the students, and these kids were like, yeah, let's do it. So they wanted to share with you what they did within their
Thank you.
presentations. They got to choose the output of like what they wanted to do for their output of their research project. So some students did oral reports, some students did PowerPoints. They did trifold boards. So they're going to start. Cecilia's going to come up first.
My name is Cecilia Salazar. I am in 8th grade at Life Academy. Today I'm going to be telling you about amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, the nervous system.
I can't hear you.
The nervous system includes the brain, spinal cord, and complex networks or nerves. ALS is when motor neurons reach from the brain to the spinal and from the spinal cord to the muscles throughout the body. The body system overview. The stimuli from the sense organs change to electrical signals. The nerves carry these electrical signals to the brain and the spinal cord. The brain decides what the stimulus is and how to respond to it. Nerves then carry the response or what to do message to or away from the brain. The message is delivered to the part of the body that will respond to the stimuli. The disease description. ALS is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. Motor neurons travel from the brain through the spinal cord to the muscles throughout the body. When these motor neurons die, the ability of the brain to imitate and control muscle movement is lost. When voluntary muscle action is progressively affected, people may lose the ability to speak, eat, breathe, and move. The risk factors are older age, male sex, a family history with the disease, a military service, potentially exposure to environmental toxins or heavy metals, lifestyle or occupational choices. Symptoms are slurred and nasal speech, difficult chewing or swallowing, muscle weakness affecting an arm, leg, or the neck, weakness associated with the muscle cramps, and twitching in the arm, shoulder, and tongue. The cause of ALS is unknown, although scientists do believe that it has something to do with genetics. There is no treatment known for ALS, although there is medication that you can take to slow it down. It involves Riluzole and Edervan. The conclusion, ALS is a fatal type of motor neuron disease. It progresses degeneration of nerve cells in the spinal cord and brain. It is often called Lou Gehrig disease after a baseball player who died from the disease. This disease is very important to be aware of because the disease can start off as something small and within time become something very big.
Thank you.
I got a question for you. How'd you get interested in ALS?
My teacher, Miss Pierce, she wanted to, I heard from a bird that she wanted to learn about it, and I figured since it was an option, why not take it and maybe show her, tell her something. And maybe she'll learn something from one of her
There you
students.
go. Thank you
Very
very
good.
much.
Very good.
Thank you for volunteering. Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
To stand up in front of these guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I had a cousin that died of ALS.
I had a friend. Terrible disease.
Pull the microphone up so it's closer to your mouth. There you go, bud.
My name is Owen Curtis, and I'm in 8th grade in Life Academy. Today I will be presenting about Parkinson's disease. The nervous system helps all parts of the body to communicate with each other. Parkinson's disease is a brain disorder that causes unintended or uncontrollable movements, such as shaking, stiffness, difficulty with balance, and coordination. Symptoms are usually begin with gradually worsen over time. As the disease progresses, people may have difficulty walking and talking. Disease overview. Parkinson's disease is a progressive movement disorder of the nervous system. It causes nerve cells called neurons and parts of the brain to weaken and become damaged and die, leading to symptoms that include problems with movement, tremor, stiffness, and impaired balance. The components are the brain, the spinal cord, and neurons. The main functions are receive sensory information, process the information it receives, and respond with motor output. Causes. Age. The risk of Parkinson's disease increases with age. Usually it starts around 50 or older. Average age of onset is around age 70. Family history. Having one or more first-degree relatives, such as parents or siblings, with Parkinson's disease increases your risk. Gender. Men are more likely to develop Parkinson's disease than many other women are. Risk factors. Exposure to toxins, ongoing exposure to herbicides and pesticides may slightly increase your risk of Parkinson's disease. Head trauma, diabetes, smoking, although some studies suggest it may have a protective effect. Certain medications and antipsychotics of cases. Symptoms. Rigid muscles. You may have stiff muscles in any part of your body. Your muscles may feel tense, painful, and your arm movements may be short. Speech changes. You may softly or quickly slur or hesitate before talking. Your speech may be flat or monotone without typical speech patterns. Treatment. Surgery. Deep brain stimulation, DBS, a surgical procedure that involves implanting electrodes into the brain to simulate areas involved in movement control. Medications. Levodopa, the primary medication for Parkinson's. It increases dopamine levels in the brain. It is often combined with carbidopa or to prevent side effects. Anticholinergics. These medications reduce tremors and rigidity. Conclusion. In conclusion, the nervous system is a very important part of the body. For example, the brain receives messages and sends out messages to different parts of the body. Also, neurons function by sending chemical and electrical messages. All in all, the nervous system is a very important and very interesting system.
Okay, so how long did it take you to do the research?
I think with the help of my teachers, probably maybe 3 to 4 days.
3 to 4 days?
Yes.
I see you have some citations down there. Were they mostly internet citations, or?
Yes.
Okay. And you had to read all those nasty words too, didn't you? Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Students or their parents want to rewatch the presentation, it'll be uploaded on the district's YouTube channel so they can watch it anytime.
So they can watch themselves on TV.
Yeah.
Yay! Yeah. Sounds like a deal.
Great job, guys.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
That was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you, crew.
Thank you.
The whole crew.
The whole crew. Very proud of
We're
you.
missing an assumption, she has a second job and she had to go to work tonight. So we're missing her tonight, but
Well,
it's a
make
team
sure that
effort.
she gets congratulations too.
Yes.
It was very nice. Thank you. It's nice to see what the kids do. Thank you. Item 4.1, Superintendent's Report.
Madam President and board members, you have the usual monthly reports. If you have questions, I'll try to answer them.
Go to the cumulative report. I think
Okay.
that's where it is.
Yes.
Yeah, keep in mind that this year is not a really good one to compare to last year because we're including data this year that we did not have last
Okay,
year.
all right.
Particularly the bus, because they're now reporting
data.
bus, right, the bus discipline, and that has skewed all of the data. So it looks like we're doing worse than we have in the
Yeah, well,
past,
that's what
and
my
that's
question
not
was
the
gonna be.
case. And here's a case in point. I don't remember how many disciplinary hearings that Ms. Amon had done last year with Fox Creek at this point in the year, but this year, 5.
Oh,
That's
5.
good.
That's it. Okay, we have one pending, so 6. So it's April, mid-April, and 6. And that's a testament to a lot of work on culture and consistent behavior management and high expectations and things like that have been going on there and at the middle school as well. But the big difference this year is at Fox Creek.
That's wonderful.
Is that because Mr. Burgess has been there?
I think it's a whole lot of things first of all, I think it's 4 or 5 years of us slowly building culture and the word getting to the younger kids of what our expectations are going to be at junior high. I think a lot of it is consistency, and some of it is Mr. Burgess works really hard with kids to connect with them and head off problems. But I also think that 2 other factors, changes that we made this year, have impacted it greatly. One is not having backpacks, and one is parking cell phones. Okay, so there's no one thing. I think it's a combination of all those things that have worked well together. Okay. Other questions about the existing reports? Okay, I have a whole lot of updates for you. Tonight, a lot of updates. So Cass, if you would show the recruitment retention graph. Okay, so if you recall, one of our goals this year was to increase retention. And so last year we had 39 positions, resignations from 39 positions when we put out contracts and work agreements. And at this point we have 28. For this year. Several of those have already been filled for next year, but that's a significant reduction for retention. So that's a good thing. And then related to that, you all approved earlier in the year that we could start recruiting H-1B visa folks, which means that we are not just recruiting them, but we are sponsoring them, which means that we're paying some of their fees to get them to come. And the difference between the J-1, which is a cultural exchange program, and the H-1B is that H-1B visa holders are working toward citizenship in the U.S. So they come and work 3 years, and then there's a process that they can start working on to get a green card and then to become citizens. And so that total thing is 6 years. So typically a J-1 visa is for 3 years and can have a 2-year extension. H-1B is automatically a 6-year. It also means that since we are the sponsors, if they come to us on an H-1B, they cannot go to some other district because we paid for them to come. So this is a good way for us to recruit and retain people, particularly if we can find folks in difficult-to-fill positions.
They can't go to other districts
No.
ever, or after a certain amount of time?
Probably after the 6 years, because we're paying their fees to be here.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
Yeah. So we have already filled we already have 3 H-1B people. One is a music teacher for next door at the middle school. And this person will also work at least 1 period a day at Fox Creek. And I'll explain in a little bit in a minute about our music program, what we're working on that, because I had shared with you we're trying to rebuild it and how we can do this. But this person has lots of experience and focuses on voice, but also can do the other parts of the music program. We have replaced a special ed teacher position at Fox Creek, and then the other position in the Life Academy, which is the special ed teacher position in the Life Academy, has been vacant this year. And we have hired a returning teacher who was here earlier on a J-1 visa, has been back in the Philippines for 2 years and wants to come and will be coming on an H-1 visa. And he will be the SPED teacher in the academy. I will tell you that when he was here before, he was an amazing teacher. So we're really looking forward to having him as part of the Life Academy program. Okay.
So we pay the fees for 6 years.
Yeah, I saw
We pay, the legal fees up front.
Oh, legal.
Okay, legal fees up front. And that's what we're doing. And then if there are usually, for any of our visa folks, there are annual fees. And once we started this process last year of looking for H-1B folks and contracted with the company that we're working with that can do H-1B visas, then we've started paying for the, the annual fees for our existing teachers. We didn't feel like we could start paying for some new people to come and not support the people we already have. The other thing that we do, the visa sponsor companies and the whole visa process requires some certain kinds of insurance. And because it's a nationwide program, they can get medical insurance for the visa holders at a lot lower price than we pay for our folks. So instead of them getting our group insurance, we pay that one, and it's significantly less than we pay for everybody else. But they have to have one that includes, they call it a repatriation fee, so that if they become ill and have to return to their native country, or we don't want this to happen, but if one of them passes away, the insurance has already been paid for them to go home, and that's a requirement. So we work with everybody on those kinds of fees, and those are good questions. So thank you for asking those.
So where are these people coming from?
These 3 are all from the Philippines. They're all from the Philippines. And Jen's been busy working with principals, interviewing candidates all week, this week, because we're trying to fill as many of these 28 positions as we can. And they're not all international teachers that we're interviewing, but a number of them are. And it's partly because we do not get applicants from the U.S. If we did, of course, they're going to be in the pool to be interviewed, and and we go from there. Okay. Any questions about recruitment and retention? Okay, my second category. One of the things that you all talked about recently was looking for a new assessment platform to replace Galileo. And I probably should have Jen present this to you, but I'll do it, and then if I make mistakes, she'll jump up and correct me. So there was a committee, and they reviewed at least three companies, and selected a program called DNA. I don't know what the letters stand for, but it's called DNA, and that is the equivalent of Galileo. So it is the benchmark testing, okay? And it is very much aligned with our state standards. And interestingly enough, only costs about half of what Galileo has been costing us per year. First year, it will cost us the same as we've been paying for Galileo because we'll have to, it's a program, so we'll have to have it installed and we'll have to have training. So year one will be about what we've been paying for Galileo. After that, it will drop back. But in that process, one of the things that this company also offers is a program called Fast Bridge. And that provides screening, so skill screening and progress monitoring in math and ELA, both of those. So if you remember when Jen presented our goals, our district goals, one of them was to find screening instruments for students so that we can figure out, okay, coming in, what are they missing? You know, what are skills that they're missing? But then we also want progress monitoring. So we've been teaching and a student doesn't do well maybe on a benchmark or maybe doesn't do very well even on a formative test that's not the benchmark. Well, the teacher really needs to know what part of this did they not understand? Because I can give interventions, I can do reteaching if I know which piece the student didn't understand. So this program goes hand in hand with DNA. It's the same company, so they're really meshed together and really meshed with our state standards. So that program is fairly expensive. It costs about what Galileo cost us. But we were going to be looking for screeners anyway, and we had that in the budget, so we're okay to put that screener and progress monitor in.
How is this, the DNA benchmark, how is that in relation to our state assessment? Is it pretty
Jen, help me out
close
here.
to?
Well, it's very much, I can answer the part that it's very much aligned with the standards. And I can say to you also that the state has been making some identification of what they're calling, what we used to call essential standards. We know that there are lots of standards, more than we can possibly have time in the year to teach, and so they've identified key ones. And then the assessments, the state assessments starting next year, about 60% of the items on the state assessment will be from that pool of items. And the other 40% approximately will be from the whole standards, okay? They would ruin the validation and reliability of the test if they suddenly changed the whole thing. But that's a piece of it, and Jen can answer any of the other part.
So the questions and the question types are aligned to the state standards. There's a couple options. They do have benchmarks that are already set. So we can give the 3 benchmarks, and it's similar to what we were doing with Galileo. We found that also when we looked at the Pearson product that they had set benchmarks in there, once again, the yearly standards like we're doing. But there's also, you can create your own as well. And so you can pick certain standards. It has an item bank. You can choose them based on the DLK or the rigor level. You can choose the questions. So they're very much aligned. It also has what they call mimics. So at some point, maybe we haven't figured out all the timing logistics, but it is like a mimic of the state assessment. So it's the same blueprint as our state assessment. So it would be very similar. So we could give that assessment to really see, like predict where our students would be on the state assessment and use that to intervene on the lower standards.
So Galileo, you can pull questions to practice, if you will. Does this DNA have the same type of ability to do that?
Yes, in fact, it's even easier. So you can go in, you can choose your grade level, your subject. They have reading, math, science, and social studies, which we haven't done social studies before, so I'm kind of curious to see what those look like. But you can pick a standard, and it automatically comes up with their tests, sample questions. And then you can just from that list pick which ones you want to include in that sample.
Okay.
So there's a lot of features. The reports, I think, are a lot more friendly for parents. They have reports for students, so students understand what their progress is. You can asking, it's almost like AI, you can give it a qualifier, and then it'll sort the data based on the qualifier you want. You can sort it by standard, so you can really track the standard a lot better per student. It even has a feature where if you're doing a test and you can monitor how the kids are doing, on the test, if you notice that all the students are getting the same question wrong, you can literally stop the test for all students, go back and talk about what the misconceptions are, and then get them back. I mean, you probably wouldn't do that on a normal benchmark, but if you're doing like a classroom assessment of some kind, you could stop the test and reteach right there before they go any further. But you can start on like item type, so if you're wondering, well, is it really the content they didn't get, or they just not understand the way it was presented, you can pull up and see like, did of the questions that students got wrong, were the majority of them like a drag and drop, or were the, so you can see kind of, it's, what it can do is amazing. It's
Now,
options.
with it, Jen, for the benchmark test, will we be able to design our own so that basically we're only testing on the stuff that has been taught in the classroom and not the stuff that's going to be taught in the classroom?
We could.
So that the benchmarks are more accurate on how much the kids have really learned, not versus what they might what they're gonna be learning, but, so we have a better benchmark to see, are they getting what they should be getting this semester or this period and stuff?
Yes, so it comes with benchmarks that are set, but we can create our own.
Okay.
So if that's the direction that the board would prefer we go in, then we can create our own. We worked hard this year on creating pacing guides, so we should have a better indicator on, what we're teaching from quarter to quarter. We would probably have to, like for quarter two, do all of the quarter two standards and some from quarter one, because we want to make sure, that they're maintaining what we taught before, but it is a possibility, yes.
Yeah, because like on the benchmarks, like, having been a teacher, and what I would like to see as a board member is, okay, we test on what they have supposedly been taught this benchmark period, and that way the teachers can go back and look at it and go, oh, this is what we need to, and also then in the, like, the second benchmark, include some of the stuff from the first benchmark to make sure it stays with them, because, you can learn it from this, but if you forget it by the end, the next one, then you're not gonna do well in the state testing, so, include in each benchmark grow from the previous one, but start with the first one just being on stuff they've tested. And so it's always something they've been taught in class, not something that, well, we're gonna be teaching that standard in 6 weeks or something.
Yeah, it's a possibility, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm
Right,
sorry.
thank you.
Jen actually invited me to attend these meetings on this system. And I went in and I looked at it and I said, whoa, this is way past my pay grade. And so I kind of gave them, I said, just make sure it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Jen.
And they're all pretty excited about it. I could hear the, because they did some of they did a lot of this with Zoom meetings, and so I could hear the conversations across the hall. And even when I couldn't hear the words, because Jen's pretty good about closing her door most of the way, but I could hear the tone of voice of the committee and the presenters, and the enthusiasm was.
The committee was you and Mrs. Brown.
Well, we also had one teacher or instructional coach from each campus. So we had a variety of grade levels, so they could all see how it might work for their grade level. So we had a second grade teacher, a fourth grade teacher, a sixth grade teacher, an instructional coach.
Eighth grade teacher.
An eighth grade teacher, and then, no, it was Tanya. We had
Oh, okay.
and then Mrs. Brown and myself, and then we had Mrs. Wilsey to represent the administrators.
Okay.
So a really good committee.
Yeah.
And we're looking to give that test the same amount of times as we do.
3 times, yeah.
3 times.
3 times, yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, next item, music program. I referred to this a few minutes ago. So if you recall, and maybe you don't, but that's okay, Jen and I met about 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, with the music teachers in the district who wanted to know if we could really work on a comprehensive music program that flows all the way from elementary to middle school to junior high. Because it's been kind of disjointed. And that's partly because we haven't had consistent people in those positions, particularly at the middle school and at the junior high. And I think they were a little surprised when Jen and I said, well, yeah, we'd like that idea. Give us a proposal. Understand that we might not be able to do all the pieces in year one. And so they gave us a proposal. Serendipitously, the high school district has offered us a band teacher at Fox Creek 2 periods a day for next year.
Wow.
Yes. So we are taking them up. So we will be doing an IGA with them for the music teacher to teach the high school music teacher, the new band teacher that that they've been introducing around the neighborhood around the town and community, to teach 2 periods of band at Fox Creek. Miss Edge, who was here with her group at Christmas time with the Bells, if you remember her, from Desert Valley, she is going to be the music teacher at Fox Creek next year. And her specialty is strings. And so we're excited to resume or reinitiate strings, because we had a pretty strong strings program about 4 years ago. And so the 2 principals from the 2 schools are working on a schedule that will allow Miss Edge to come down to the middle school next year and restart strings with 5th grade. Okay? And she will start strings at Fox Creek as well. The new teacher that we just talked about that we hired for the middle school in Fox Creek, the new H1B teacher, her background is choral. And so we will, of course, continue choral at the middle school. But then when Miss Edge comes down here to teach strings, the new teacher will most likely go to Fox Creek and teach choral music. So we have a really almost 2.5 teachers to teach at the 2 schools and play to their strengths, work with their strengths to really build our program. The next year, then we would look for having strings at both 5th and 6th grade and expand the program. Part of that, and part of the reason the high school is offering their band teacher, is that we've not had a good continuous program to feed into the high school music program. And so we want to build that back up. First of all, it's good for kids, and nobody can argue that it's good for kids. But it will help the high school program, and it will help kids continue in music to the high school level. So I'm pretty excited about that partnership.
Carolyn, are
Yeah.
they providing instruments for the children?
We have lots of instruments
We do,
that
okay, I didn't know.
we have lots of instruments.
Both strings and...
We do have
and-
strings, yes,
yeah.
because we had a pretty strong program. The music teachers were tasked with doing a good inventory of all the instruments in the district, so that we could figure out, if we needed to move anything around, if we, whatever it is we needed to do.
So no child will be excluded because of lack of...
Should not be, no. Yeah, we want everybody who wants to participate.
Okay.
So, other questions about music? Okay. Landscaping, Den Landscaping, Cass, pull up some pictures. So I went up, they completed this project today. So I went this afternoon and took some pictures. So when you enter the property, this is just to the north of the mailboxes. This is in front of house number 2. And you can see all the rocks and the whatever. Now, between these 2 houses, they graded that. You really can't tell because it's pretty minimal, but they graded that space between so that it's low in the middle, so that water will run off the houses, and then it's graded so it will run toward the back of the property. We will, if you look by the window of that left-hand house, you see a post there. That's because we're going to put a fence, because that's a wind tunnel. But we didn't want to put the fence in until the landscaping was done. And you will also know that we have, notice that we have security doors on the front, and we also have them on the back door now. Okay.
Are the backs fenced?
No. And I'll show you what the back looks like here in a minute. This is what the back looks like. So this faces south. It faces the non-existent part of Calle de Mercado. So you notice the big boulders and the various, the tall cactus, and then there are some short ones. These are all, none of these are living plants. I'm particularly impressed with, on the right hand, the ocotillo, because it certainly looks like the ones in my yard right now. We have not had enough rain for my ocotillos to have leaves, but my ocotillos have been blooming regardless. And if you, I think it cut off. At the top of one of those is actually a bird.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah, as part of the plant, right? Oh, there you go. See him up there?
Yeah.
So yeah, this was the next picture. So you can see some pretty good sized boulders that they brought in for us.
Yeah.
And it looks really nice. It's not fancy, and there's not a lot. Actually, there are not nearly as many of the cactus as I had put in the design, but I think that's because they're very expensive.
Yeah.
So it looks really nice. And then this is looking down the east side of house number 1. So if you can see my car down there. So if you were, if you're driving in, on the left, you can see down that embankment where they've put riprap. At the bottom, they have put what's called castle stone to hold things, and it looks really nice. The big boulders, and you can't see all of the cactus that are along there, but it all looks very nice, and it was completed today.
So when's the move-in?
Well, I'm not sure. We're going to need to do a ribbon cutting, but here's the other part of this. So all along the Bullhead City area, Bullhead Mojave Valley Board of Realtors had told us that they would support us in the landscape process. They applied for a grant from the State Realtors Association and were denied. But they don't give up. I don't know if you know Karen Summit or not, or Dana Walters, but they don't give up. So they have designed a fundraiser for us to pay completely for this landscaping and our monument, our monument sign, which we don't have yet. And it will be to purchase a stone, one of those sandstone, the flat sandstones. And have your logo or your name or whatever on it. We met down at Karen's office yesterday because she had the stone samples. I thought that she was talking about the biggest one being about maybe 18 inches by 12 inches. No, that's the smallest one. And then the next one is about 24 to 28 inches by 14 or 16 inches. And the big one is probably almost 3 feet by 24, 26 inches. They're huge. But the idea is to go out to the community and ask folks to donate and get their name or their logo on on one of those stones. And then, Cass, if you go back to the first picture, please. Yeah. So, this doesn't really show, but we originally thought we would either put them right in front of the monument, that says Den Project, but they're so big they would cover up our sign. So to the right of this picture is a drainage area, and then to the right of that are the mailboxes. And we've put stones along the back because we had people coming onto the property, driving through there, and so our facilities people have built just a rock thing. It's not a wall, it's just this rock thing. We could stand those stones up on the property side of those rocks, so that when anybody comes in, they can see who helped support our project. That's not a final decision, it's just kind of an idea at this point. But we're looking at kind of an exciting project to be getting off in the next week or so, and getting out there and finding some people and some businesses to support us. So I think that's pretty exciting, and I'm appreciative of the Realtors Association for supporting us. Questions about that? Okay, the PowerPoint, if you would, please. Okay, so one of the things that's part of our IE contract is twice a year culture survey. We have a bunch of results. I'm going to share just part of it with you. So this, Jen and I met with Heidi 2 weeks ago, I think, on this. So just want you to know that this is a completely blind survey, anonymous, 19 questions. You can see the dates. There were questions about the 3 pillars of school culture, and then additional sections on leadership, innovation, or innovativeness, and teacher satisfaction. Next one, please. So, there were 130 invitations to teachers, so that kind of answers your question about how many classroom teachers, 130. 122 responded, that's 94%.
That's
Those of
great.
us who, yeah, isn't that great? Those of us who've done any research are really excited if we get 50% response to a survey. So to get 94% is amazing.
Yeah.
And we had 94 in the fall as well. Of course, and they had to answer at least 10 questions to be counted. So there may have been more people who responded, but maybe didn't answer all 19 questions. I don't know. Administrators are not included, and then they kind of they did their own little research. Average teaching experience among our respondents was 13 years. Now that doesn't mean they've been with us 13 years, but they've taught for 13 years. And the average years of experience in our district is 5. So, Cass, the next one. So I have two data points for you because I thought these were particularly interesting. So this question had to do with change in practice. How much has what you've been learning in the model of instruction has actually changed the practice in your classroom, changed what you do or how you do it? And so you can see the blue was the response in the fall, and the green was the response in March, February, March. I'm pretty excited that we're not quite at the end of year 2, and we have 64% of our folks saying that they've changed their practice a lot or a great deal. And then if you add the 29% that's moderate, that's pretty significant change of practice. And then the other one I wanted to share with you is the response to the impact on student achievement. So 75% of our respondents say that it's true or completely true that participation in their PLC, so that means their professional learning communities, that means the teamwork that the teachers are doing in preparation of instruction, that it's made a difference in student achievement. And I think it's pretty significant that 75% of our teachers say that really honing in on that professional learning community is changing student achievement.
Could I ask to go back to the previous slide, please?
Sure.
So I'm kind of looking at this, and it looks like there's more teacher satisfaction and enthusiasm than there is not so much, if that makes sense.
It does.
So that's wonderful to see that the majority of our teachers are in favor of this.
Well, and I would like to say that they're saying they're in favor of it, okay? But what they're saying is their practice, what they are doing in their classrooms has changed. I would like to think that means that they're in favor, but what it really means is they're changing their practices to do a better job of teaching kids. And that's really what we're after.
So their experience as educators, they must see the value of the IE program, right?
That's how I would interpret it.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
how I would
that's
interpret
wonderful.
it. And as I say, at the end of year 2, to have this higher percentage, I was pleasantly surprised to have it this high. 64% is pretty significant for 2 years into a significant change in behaviors.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Cass. Any other questions about that little survey or those pieces? I have the complete report. I didn't want to bore you with the complete report, but you're certainly welcome to see it anytime you would like. Okay, next thing is we did the panorama survey that Jen mentioned because we do it as part of the Title I. And so students get the survey, it's opt-in, so we don't get the student response we used to get when it was we'd give the survey unless the parent opted out for their child. Now it's opt-in, and so we don't get as high a percentage of students participating. We have the teacher survey, we have the staff survey, and we have the parent survey, which just closed today. And that's why we don't have all the data for you. But one of the things that I did was read through the comments and look at the data on the teacher survey, and you'll get all of this next month. But one of the things that I noted in the teacher comments, people are entitled to their opinions. That's fine, and we want their opinions. But some of their opinions were based on some false information. And so I wanted the opportunity to share it with you, the correct information. And I was a little surprised myself because I hadn't put this information together before. So Cass, if you would put up my payroll history table. So what I did was I went back through, since I was here. By the way, I got an email today or a text today from a neighborhood person who was congratulating me on having been selected as superintendent 6 years ago tonight.
Oh.
Congratulations.
Happy anniversary.
Yes. Congratulations.
I didn't even know. I didn't even remember the date, but I thought, well, it's kind of ironic that it's tonight, right? The same day. So that's why it starts in 2019-20, which was when I started. And of course, that was the year I inherited a budget, which is fine because I do the budget next month for y'all, and if I were to leave, whoever comes in July would inherit it. So that's just the way it works. But the teacher base salary, step one, was $37,000 that year. But I also wanted to talk because one of the comments that was made several times in those survey comments was that classroom site fund money seems to be going down every year for teachers. And so that's why there are those next columns for this. The $1,450, which is for base salary from classroom site fund, is in red because in 2019 and the 2 following years, that money was included as part of the base salary. So if they had done, we don't do it that way now. It's now on top of whatever we publish as the base. So at the time, the base salary was $1,450 less. Actually, it was less, $1,450 less. So I put it as a negative there simply because the rest of the table shows what teachers are getting on top of the base salary. So you notice in 2019-20 that the total they got, not counting the $1,450, the points and the performance pay was $2,770. Classroom Site Fund allows the district, that law allows the district to pay for positions, teaching positions in the district, which help us reduce class size. In our district, those funds have been used since the beginning of Classroom Site Fund for specials teachers. Because if we lose specials, if we don't have periods in the day when kids can go to art, music, library, PE, then that means that to have decent class sizes, more of this money would have to go, or more of M&O would have to go into that. So, and more of this money. So in that year, 9 positions were paid out of Classroom Site Fund. The amount of money that we receive each year is set by it's set by ADE school finance, but it's based on information that they get from the other part of the Arizona government because it's based on sales tax, Arizona sales tax, okay? And they tell us, I learned a week ago what our amount per student will be for Classroom Site Fund for next year. It will go up $50 per student from what it was this year, okay?
That's a lot.
I don't know what it was that year. It might have been pretty low. I have no idea, okay? Okay, so then in 2021, the base was 37.5. Well, and you can see in 1920, in the middle of the year, we raised the base. So everybody got another bump in salary. Okay, in 2021, we started with that same base, and then in the middle of the year, we moved it up. So the $1,450 was still part of whatever that number is. $1,000 for the points. And if you're wondering what the points are, those are activities that teachers participate in that are not other paid things. So some of our teachers are on paid committees. Sometimes we decide we need a committee and it's not a paid committee, they can get points. And there was up to 10 points at $100 per point. Maybe one of the things they can do is come to board meetings. They can get a point for coming to board meetings. They can get a point for, they can get more than 1 point up to a certain number to be on the TAT team, which is the review for student achievement, which is considered for special education. So there's a whole list of things. They can get a point for serving at not back to school night, spring fling or the Halloween, whatever it is. School activities, okay? So they can get up to 10 points, which at that time was up to $1,000. And then the performance pay is always tied in one way or another to evaluations. So you see that year they got $3,422. 21, 22, same thing. In 2021, we had 8 teachers paid out of Classroom Site Fund. In 21, 22 and 22, 23, we had fewer teachers, but that's because we put as many teachers as we could over into our ESSER funds, paid for those out of grants, so that we could feed more money back into our teachers' pockets, okay? And then starting in 22, 23, we made sure that the base pay was on top of whatever our salary schedule said. It wasn't absorbed into that. And so we started with the same salary schedule, but there's that $1,500 separate, and then we raised that one in the middle of the year. And you can see how that progresses to the current year. But you can also see the points stayed the same until this year. This is the first year that they can get $200 per point. And then performance pay, you can see what happened with performance pay. It increased each year. It did not go down. Last year, we had 8 positions scheduled to be paid out of Classroom Site Fund. We only filled 7 of them. So the money that we did not spend on a teacher from there went back into what went back to teachers. I bring that fund down as close to 0 as I can get it each year, because it's intended to go to teachers. I don't let it go in the red, but I usually get down to about $25,000. That's all that we carry over from year to year with that. This year I'm estimating, conservatively estimating, that performance pay will be around $5,000, but you can see we've already gone up to $2,000 on base pay and $2,000 in points. So it comes out to around $9,000. So it's not that much different than last year, okay? The next column over, I just noted some extra pay, special pay that teachers have had. In 2021, there was the $2,000 from ESSER funds for risk because they worked during COVID. Okay. And then for 2 years in a row, we had $2,500 out of ESSER funds for a signing incentive, and they had to stay the whole year to get that. Okay. And then for 23 and 24, 23, 24 in the current year, I just put the number 500 in there just to mark the spot. Last year is the first year that we did longevity pay. And so we have some folks who've been here more than 5 years who get $500, some folks who've been here more than 10 who get $1,000, folks who've been here more than 15 who get $1,500 on top. It varies from person to person, but I put the 500 in there just to spark our memory. On the right-hand side, you can see what happened along the way for our classified positions. And several of those changed in the middle of the year because of the minimum wage changes in the middle of the year. And I finally got a little smarter and said, let's anticipate what the middle of the year thing is going to be and try to hit it at the beginning of the year rather than make a change in the middle of the year. So, and then where you see a new column 8 over on the right, that started in December. It actually started in October of 22-23 was when we ended our contract with ABM and set up our own facilities department, and to get qualified, experienced people who could do HVAC, plumbing, construction work. We needed to boost that base salary so we could compete with the real world a little bit. The reality is that's probably only about half of the starting pay for people in those trades. But we managed to get some pretty good people in those spots. So this was just a quick summary, but I wanted you all to be aware of it in case any staff say to you anything, well, we haven't had pay raises. Yes, you have, okay? That classroom site fund has been going down. No, it isn't going down. It will change a bit next year because I have said to the committee that we are going to fund 10 positions out of classroom site fund for next year so that we can hold our regular class sizes where they are.
Which is a maximum of?
Well, it depends on the grade level. So we have a number set for kindergarten, which is 18 to 20. You're going to test my memory here. First grade, I think, is 21, 22. Second grade, I think, is 22, 23. Third grade, 23, 24. Fourth grade, 23, 24. Middle school and junior high are at like 25 to 27. And for next year, our projections are that every single regular classroom in the district, except for first grade and second grade at Sunrise, will be within or below those numbers. Those two grade levels, the number of kids that we anticipate in those first grade and second grade will be at 25 instead of 22, 23. And then we'll see what it really ends up being. But I have to tell you, as a teacher, to think about being a second or third grade teacher and having only 23 or 24 kids is ideal. To have 25, 26 in fifth or sixth grade is ideal. So I have to tell you that I'm not real concerned when somebody complains about our class sizes, because we've asked around in our neighboring schools, and they're higher. So, and sometimes, people out there in the real world go, well, what's the difference between 24 and 26? Okay, well, it's two bodies, but it depends on the grade level, okay? We remember Jen taught kindergarten, and we had times when the district was growing so fast that we had 27 kids in kindergarten. I will tell you, you get more than 22 5-year-olds in a room, it's herding cats. It is. It's all you can do to keep them. I'm not even sure we can say keep them in order because it's not true. And there have been times in the past when classes at junior high have been 30. Okay, is that impossible? No, but the best learning doesn't happen at 30. But there have been times when it's been a little bigger than that. It's been higher than that, and so we're certainly below. We're certainly below, and that doesn't mean that we don't have an occasional classroom at the junior high that has 30, because it depends on the schedule for that period. But that's very rare. It's very rare. So we've got pretty good stuff going on. Okay.
I would say so.
Okay. My last big area for you is funding updates. Jen has been working hard. Because the window opened April 1st, and she has to have all the grant applications in before May 1st. So she's been burning it up across the hall, okay? She's managed to include within her grants the salaries for all of our instructional coaches and our new MOI coach out of grant funding. Okay, so that's the instructional coaches, the tech coach, not the achievement coach. No, achievement coach I'm doing out of SPED money, okay? But all of those other positions. Now, she hasn't funded them all at 100% out of grants. She's funded them as high as she can out of grants. Funded all of them at the highest percentage she can, and here's why. We did talk about this when we talked about budget, but it was such a small point you may not recall. If we take any position that is currently funded by a grant and remove it from the grant completely, we can never put it back. If we pay for a position out of M&O funds, okay? If we pay for a position out of M&O funds, we can never put it back in a grant because that's called supplanting. okay? It means that you're trying to purchase with grant funds, which are supposed to be extra supplemental on top of everything else money. It means that, if you take a position you were paying out of this budget over here and try to put it back, it's supplanting something that you required out of here. However, I'm just going to use these numbers because I don't know what numbers she's using. But let's say that all of these coach positions, that the grant is paying 80% of the salary and benefits. I'll build the other 20% into M&O. If extra money comes, we'll move them over there, okay? But it means then that we can keep those positions in those grants. And the percentages can go up and down within that, okay? So, so that's, when we talked about braiding our funds, when we did our workshop, that's what we're talking about, is how to maximize all of the funding streams to get us all the people we need into these positions, okay? And so that's pretty exciting, because at first we weren't sure that was going to work, but it worked out. She did a great job with that. Questions about that piece, about the grants?
Is that approved already, grants?
No, because she hasn't submitted them yet.
Oh, okay.
But it's the way we've done it for a long time, and so neither one of us has any fear that it will be approved.
Not approved.
Yeah, that it won't be approved. We are sure that it will be. I mean, we don't see it. And the other reason for her doing it this way is if we can bump up, if we come back in July and we see that our budget will hold enough to raise all of the salary schedules, raise the salary schedule, she still has wiggle room to raise those salaries. Because anytime we raise the salary schedule for people paid out of M&O, we do the same thing for anybody paid out of grants. So she left herself some wiggle room there to include those, to include any raises, okay? Okay, then out of the grants, we also pay for a lot of our computer programs to supplement instruction. And so if you recall, we talked about if grant funding was cut in any way, that we would try to keep people and we might cut things. Okay, so Jen's been building into the various grants purchase of the programs that we use all the time. And so today she shared with me that entire thing. It's just short of $118,000 for licenses for the various programs we use across the district. Okay. She's currently got in her budget 79.8% of that. I will build the rest of it into our capital outlay because that's where it goes. And then if additional grant funds come in, we will move some of that expense over to those grants. So right now we're filling in with M&O, or I mean in this case with capital. The thing that's holding us up a little bit, not holding us up, but that we think is waiting in the wings, one of the grants that's called rural or low income right now is on hold. Out of all those grants, that's the one that's on hold. And so that's part of the reason that we're having to do the roughly 20% thing. So we anticipate that will move over, okay? And then the other piece is related professional development. We just talked about having the new benchmark assessments. We have to train our people to use that and how to do all of those things, the wonderful things it will do. And I will do that out of M&O. Okay? Okay. M&O and capital budgets. Next month I will bring to you the final revision for the current budget, and I will bring you the proposed budget for next fiscal year. Our budgets are in good shape. We're in good shape. So that's the piece for you to think about. We're in really good shape. There will be some adjustments to the current budget. Remember last month when I reported to you as part of the plan for next year that we will not have the two 4-pay preschools. Okay, That program did not grow and develop as we expected it to. And the enrollment was considerably lower than we expected, but we weren't going to shut the program down in the middle of the year. And we've lost some money on that, so I'll have to absorb some of that back into the budget. Right now, it doesn't look like it's a huge amount. I'm estimating about $25,000. The Child Care Center is operating in the red right now, and that's primarily due to the fact that many of our employees' children qualified last year for high assistance from the federal child care bills that expired, and the Arizona child care system, which changed its base. And so several of our employees whose children were in the child care, they could no longer afford to have their kids in our child care. We have really reasonable rates. Many of those children ended up being in family child care because the families couldn't afford the other child care either. So that's part of that. I don't anticipate that being huge either. I anticipate that being around 20,000. And then I don't have it nailed down, but we probably will have some food service to cover for two reasons. One, increased cost of food and materials. We have the contract with Chartwells. It's a guaranteed contract. They pay us back money on that, but increase in food costs is hurting them. And the second thing is that we did not have 21st Century program this year, so we've not done after-school snacks this year. And after-school snacks historically bring in between $200,000 and $300,000. Yeah, so that's a significant drop in that. We learned last week that we can do, since our school days are longer than a typical school day, that we can offer snacks in the afternoon to our kids. I wish I'd known that 6 months ago because I would have applied for it. But we're going to do that next year. We will have snacks. I took it to the principals and they unanimously said yes, because our kids are hungry in the afternoons, you know. And as long as we do it just before school's out, you know, or 20 minutes before school's out, whatever. So it gets served in the classroom just like our breakfasts do, and that will bring back between $200,000 and $300,000 in our food service program. So it's kind of bad news right now. It's not horrible news, and we can afford to cover it. It's not, you know, it's not exactly what we want, but we'll take care of it. I'll have the details for those things when we do budget next month. Whew. Lots of updates of things that have happened in the last 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Sure.
You're welcome.
Just trying to keep up with the changes in the government.
Yeah.
Who can?
Yep.
Really are.
Yeah. It's not as grim as it looked. It looked pretty grim for a couple of weeks, but it's not as grim. So. Thank you for a long opportunity.
Okay. Thank you.
Item 4.2, board member updates. I was pushing to get us into schools, and guess who failed?
No, you're not alone.
You're not alone.
I actually went to Patty Kent.
Did you?
And I did, because I get the Life Academy, the preschool, and the childcare.
All
So
three at the
all
same
three of them,
thing?
get all three of them done.
So what'd you learn?
And other than Life Academy, none of them were testing, so it wasn't easy.
You know, I looked at that and I said, you know, that's just an imposition.
Yeah.
You know, that was not fair to anybody to have somebody come in.
Well, I planned it right because the Life Academy kids were done with their testing. But, so it turned out fine. But it's always fun to go through watch the little kids and whatever.
Well, thank
But
you.
I was telling Dr. Stewart earlier that one of the young men, 8th grader at Life Academy, we had asked how he felt he did, because it was the math portion. He said it was so hard. It was so hard. And I guess he's pretty strong in math. And the funny part is that the night before at dinner, my granddaughter, who's in 8th grade at a charter school, was saying the same thing, that it was really hard. So I don't know what that means. I'm crossing my fingers. She's usually a pretty good tester, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, that was, yeah. Now my grandson, 5th grade, he said, piece of cake. And my other one was 7th grade, he said piece of cake. But the 8th grade one, they said was horrible, horrible, horrible. So, you know, it's just, we'll see. Just giving you that heads up, Belinda.
Thanks. Thank you for doing that. I do encourage myself and everybody else to at least get into one of the schools. I think we kind of all chose a school to go to, so I will make a very, very strong effort to do that. Next week, Barb and I go to
Flagstaff.
Flagstaff for a meeting, and we'll have a report when we get home.
Awesome.
Consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second it.
All those in favor? I, Melinda Sobrowski.
I, Charlene Diaz.
I, Fred Rushton.
I, Barb Thursicki.
Hi, Judy Reed.
Old business, 6.1, updated certified specialist salary schedule for school year 25-26.
Madam President and board members, last month when we talked about the MOI coach and you approved it as part of the plan for next year, I quoted for you a salary that really was from the instructional coach line. But as Jen and I talked about it later, I realized that we need somebody in this position who has not only been a teacher, a quality teacher, a good teacher, but probably somebody who's been an administrator. Because this person's going to be coaching teachers, coaches, and principals. And so column Q there is a salary column for that position. Because we're looking for somebody who has some experience and who has certain qualifications. And we frankly talked about what price are we likely to get somebody for. So I'm proposing that we add that column to the specialist salary schedule.
I looked at this and if I was a principal and I was looking at this, I'd say, this is unfair. And I still think it's unfair. You know, I could put that model of the instructional coach back down in the principal column, but I don't think if they need, $8,000 more about? I don't think that's right.
Well, it's somebody who will have had experience, won't be a step one principal. So, we're looking at somebody the reason I did that is because when we hire a principal who's had experience, we give them up to 10 years experience. So if we were to hire somebody who, into this position, who had a number of years experience as a principal, then.
And they get $82,500.
No, they get $83,250. Because if they come in with more than 10 years experience. So if we hire somebody with 15 years experience, we still only pay them on step 11.
Okay.
And that was the basis on which I did that. And I'm not saying, that you can't change this, because of course you're the board and you can. But that was the rationale that that Jen and I had when we were talking about this, was with somebody with some years of experience. And in the job description, we put in there, I think we put in there at least 5 years experience. We're going to look at it in a minute because I have the job description in here for you. But I mean, play with it how you will. But that was our rationale.
I tend to agree with Melinda on that one, because the thing is you're gonna bring this person in the first year at 83.25, and a principal who's had 11 years' experience. I mean, granted, this person's gonna have had the experience, but will be starting at the same thing with 11 years, and I just don't see somebody coming in for the first year in our district making that kind of money when our principals aren't up at that salary level either.
Well, their first year, they would be first year with us. They would not necessarily be a
Right.
first year principal or administrator. They would have, you want someone that's gonna have some background.
Right.
But the thing
Um,
is, the principal coming in at 11 years has the same experience as the person we'd be bringing in as
At 5 years' experience.
of a coach. The same experience.
Yeah.
Yes and no. It just kind of depends who applies.
Yeah, well,
I mean, you
That-
could have
that-
somebody that's a retired superintendent that's been a administrator and decides, oh, you know, I want to get back into the schools. You know, so, I mean, I don't think that 83,250, whatever, that first year is too high for someone that is.
the 83,250 is principal. Then we're talking the model instruction coach and all that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Then we're talking $90,750. We're
If they've
talking-
had 11 years' experience
Yeah, if
as
they
a
have.
coach,
But that's a possibility.
as a coach here.
Not coming in, so they will
Uh-uh.
start on the first one.
Sorry. Audience is not supposed to contribute.
So if they come in and they've had to work in the district to become the instructional coach?
No.
No, not necessarily. And it's not necessarily that, it might be somebody who has had experience as, maybe it would it help if we looked at that job description? Because it's on the
Yeah.
agenda,
yeah, I think might.
Bring it up,
if you want.
please.
Did I not put those on there? Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't see it.
7.6.
7.6, yeah.
7.6. There we go. Model of instruction coach. There we go. Phew. Okay, so bachelor's degree, master's preferred. Well, if they have experience as a principal, they're going to have a master's, right?
I would think that master's would be a minimum requirement.
Yeah.
And we could change that too. Graduate work in curriculum content, administration, and other educational area.
And I also think that they should have had administrative certificate.
Okay,
I don't know.
Because how are you going to tell principals how to do something if you've not been one?
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, but I mean, they won't,
I think that if you're going to be telling a principal what to do, they need to have,
yeah, you should have, and,
Yes.
you know, I
Okay.
would say a minimum
the
of
thing-
that.
so we need to work on this job description too.
I think so, because,
definitely.
I mean, having been a principal and having worked in the district office too and stuff like that, I know that teachers and administrators respected me more because I had been in their position than if I had not. And when I was working in the high school district, you know, I had been those things there too. So I just think that you're not asking enough for this kind of salary level.
Okay, for the experience, 5 years administrative experience?
I
Or
would
you want
say
to say more?
minimum
I would
of
say-
5
I
years
would say,
administrative
yeah.
experience.
Okay,
I would say 5 years classroom and 5 years administrative, so at least
But
10
you
years.
couldn't be an administrator if you hadn't been a classroom teacher.
yeah, but you don't.
But you
what-
That's
don't
a
have,
requirement.
yeah, but you don't have to be in there only for a year or two, and then you can get into the administration.
I thought it was more than that.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. But I'm just saying, I think that they should have been a principal. They should have had some of the background that people will admire and will respect their input. Because otherwise, you're saying, yeah, this person doesn't really know what he's saying. And,
Right. Good points. Okay,
Yeah, it's a valid point.
okay.
But
Excellent.
even with this, I still say that
You can
Yeah.
go back to the salary.
the compensation is too high. As a
I think you're
principal.
expecting a former superintendent to come into this position. I honestly look at this and I think in order to pay them more, that they've already been a superintendent, and then they decided they didn't want the huge job of superintendentship. And would do this job, you know, as kind of like, and I hate to say in their retirement years, but in their later years, when they're tired of all the rigmarole that goes with the other administrative positions. I don't know, I mean, to get a retired superintendent to come back to this would be a miracle.
Well, some consideration even for retired principals, I think.
Yeah, retired principals might, yes.
If this is too high, then please talk about what would be an acceptable, and the reason I'm kind of pushing on that is so that we can get this position posted
Yeah.
and post a salary range for folks.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So, and this is coming from ignorance. I mean, I have some idea, but I'm hearing a chorus here of all saying the same thing. So, in fairness, does a first-year participant in column Q, are they going to be, for lack of a better word, please forgive me, are their pedigrees going to be greater than a first-year participant in M?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then clearly column Q would merit being more than column M.
But the thing is, Fred, if you look at the number of hours. The number of hours for the new model coach is only 1560, where in a principal is 1920.
400 hours.
There's 400 hours more in there.
So then, if they were to get equivalent monies, all things being equal, they would still be getting a bonus
yeah.
because of their lack of hours.
Exactly, but the lack of that 400 hours.
And just as throwing it out there for consideration.
And that brings up a good question, is that, should they be only doing 1,500 hours? Or should they be doing equal to what principals are doing? I mean, depends on how you want to utilize that person, but.
Right. And that was part of our discussion as well. These 1,560 hours, you'll notice, is the same as our instructional coaches. So it's some time before teachers report in the summer and a little bit of time after teachers leave. And it can be flexed a little bit, but it's coaching. So, they're not going to be coaching coaches when coaches are not here. They're not going to be coaching principals when principals are not here. Although, as you pointed out, the principal's hours are more days, kind of thing. And so it was pretty arbitrary on our part just to say, let's make it the same length as the other coaches.
Well, are they?
But even at that place, the instructional coach compensation is a little less than half, or a little bit more than half of what you wanted to do for the model. And that's, if you look at a teacher,
Teacher base right now is 40.
Yeah.
If you
But they have
require
40
plus all those other things, and you're right.
Talking about 45, almost 40, it's 5,000.
Almost 49.
5,000 to yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost-
And up until last year, the coaches did qualify for. We had them qualifying for classroom site fund. Right. When the Auditor General's office changed the coding and said that we could only use classroom site fund because they defined what a teacher is, and so we can only code as teachers those people who are in the classroom 75% or more of the time, 75% of the time or more. That was also when we created we raised this salary, and I'm not telling you that it's high enough because I'll never tell you that for any of our people, but That's why we added, last year, why we increased this column significantly was to try to compensate partly for that difference from not having classroom site fund. Because we knew that was a big amount of money. And
It is. It's a big one.
it is a big.
So, if you change column Q, give
Mhm.
the number of hours,
Mhm.
okay, and give them the same compensation as column 1.
But they're
I think
coaching those
that's
they're
fair.
coaching, you mean, do K for these, the MOI coach?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
M.
M.
Oh, M,
As in
I'm sorry.
That's in
Okay.
the principal column.
Okay.
Use the principal column, 1,560 hours, which is more than the principals are getting
Okay.
for the number of
Okay.
hours they're doing.
Well, that's true.
Then I think
Or
that
if you're gonna
as
say
a
5 years of parents,
past
you could
principal,
start
it
them
would
at the
sit
5-year,
a little bit better.
yeah,
with
which
me.
would make sense.
Okay,
Because, you know, the
I think they
instructional
should.
coach has the instructional coaches and some principals to mentor.
all of
But
them.
But the
Mhm.
thing is, the principal has the whole school. And every parent, and every kid, and every custodian, and every roll of toilet paper, and every roll, you know, what I'm talking about. You know,
Mhm.
there's a difference in responsibilities.
Okay,
If a principal is absent, it'd be a heck of a lot more important than, or it's
Coach.
not important, that's not the word,
Impactful.
impactful, thank you, Fred.
Yeah.
Then if the instructional coach is
okay,
absent.
Mhm.
So, you know, like, if you wanna give them more compensation, then put them in column M, leave the number of hours like it is, because that's a justification for the instructional coaches, that's a good one, yeah, I like that.
or leave the column and just copy the numbers. So we
Exactly.
have the hours down here
Yeah.
that match.
Well, I was gonna say the hours should be, it doesn't necessarily have to be equal to the principals, but
No.
it should be more than the instructional coaches.
You think
Yeah.
so?
Well, is this person going to be assisting the principals? As-
Coaching them,
Or coaching the
Which-
principals?
yeah,
You should have
So-
during the school year,
so-
yes, absolutely.
during the school year.
During the
Some
school
point-
year,
During a school year, but there's going to be periods of time when they, when there's no children, when they can still be coaching.
Okay,
So
true.
you know what I'm saying? Where it's uninterrupted coaching, basically. So if you're increasing, you'd almost want to increase their hours a little bit, anyway.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be 1920. I don't think they need to work the same number of hours that the principals work.
No, but it should be.
But it could be more than that.
Probably more than the instructional coaches.
Madam President, can we ask Jen for a little input on this since she supervises these folks?
I'm glad
And
to
she was
listen-
part
I'd
of
be
the
glad to
discussion,
listen to
Jen?
it.
Well, as I'm listening, I mean, it's a good point because principals do work, coaches only work like 2 weeks or 2 days after students are out. Principals work 3 weeks after
Yeah.
students get out. And then coaches begin, I don't know, like a week or so later than principals. So really with principals, we're gonna be doing scheduling, professional development planning, all of those things, before and after students, they probably should be longer than instructional coaches. Because they're gonna be coaching principals who are planning all those things.
And maybe even helping, now that I think about it, maybe even helping coach new principals or new assistant principals?
Yep. So I do agree the hours probably should be.
So boost it up to 1,600, move column M over to column
Well,
Q.
probably
For
more than
prices, or
1,600.
for salaries?
Well, I just,
I was gonna say more than.
just
I would
making-
think that an
that's an
instructional
extra week.
coach, though, should also be helping with professional development.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they
And they should
do.
be involved
Oh, yeah,
highly
absolutely.
in professional development
Yes.
that is presented through the year, through the auspices of each school. And so that the principals get the requirement of that kind of off their shoulders completely, that this person would maybe do a lot of the professional development for the teachers, not just the principals. I don't know. I mean,
Okay,
I just think you should broaden the definition.
well, we'll work on that job description, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and I do think a minimum of 5 years.
So, So could I
administrators.
just throw this out for discussion? Since we're going to expect this person to have had 5 years' experience as a principal, could we start this column
That's what I'm
at step 5 or step 6 from column
So
M?
79.5?
Yeah. Could we start that one there since we expect, because
Mhm.
principal who comes in on column M at step 1 has never been a principal
Before.
anywhere
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're
before.
going to require 5 years, I could see that.
Can you live with
I
that, that
could
we
live with
move it
that.
over to make it either 78,750 or 79,5
Yeah,
to start on
me, it makes
Q?
sense.
I'd say go 78.50.
yeah. 78,750,
Okay,
5-year mark.
That makes sense, Carolyn. Yeah, I can live with that.
Maybe
Okay.
come in on step 6.
So are you going to
And
bring
then
this back to
1,600
us, or
hours?
are you going to?
well, you could approve it with the changes if you're willing to do so, so that we can get it posted. Get the
Oh.
position posted with salaries and, salary range and those things.
So it would basically go by $250 a year experience down from 78.50.
Well, it's 750,
Seven, yeah.
750, but yes, so it would just, we'd move this column over and move it up and fill in the blanks at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then 1,600 hours,
Mhm.
that's another,
That's
that's
another
another
week.
week of
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
That's why I said
Mhm.
1,600.
Yeah, that's 40 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we, for the instructional specialist salary, that we start them at 78,750,
With
and
increases
the
of
hours
250.
increase to 1,600.
Second.
All those in favor? I, Melinda Sabrowski.
Hi, Charlene Diaz.
Hi, Fred Rushton.
I, Barbara Zarzicki.
I, Judy Reed.
thank you.
Well done.
7.1, proposal to add one special education paraprofessional position at Desert Valley. Are you sure we only just need one? I'm serious. I'm serious. At this time, they are on overload.
Well,
My understanding.
and I'm not laughing at you, Kate and I have had these conversations. So the new position that you all approved last month for the additional life skills classroom at Desert Valley, our life skills classrooms have 2 paras in each of those rooms.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one position that we're moving from another site. So this person would have, if you approve this position, would have 2 paras for that classroom. It's just that we're
Yeah.
moving one from another site, so that's an
Where
already
the person
acceptable,
isn't needed.
right, where they're not needed, and then add this position. And Kate's been involved in this discussion thoroughly through all of this, so.
How do you guys feel about it?
I think if they need them, then we definitely should. And especially being with special ed and stuff, you can't put enough paraprofessional people in a special ed class as far as I'm concerned, especially with some of the classes we have to have over here and stuff.
Okay, then can I have a motion to approve, adding one special education paraprofessional position in Desert Valley?
I make a motion to approve to add one special education paraprofessional at Desert Valley.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? I, Melinda Sabrowski.
Hi, Charlene Diaz.
Hi, Fred Rushton.
I, Barbara Zarzicki.
I, Judy Reed.
Okay, 7.2, proposal to add one half-time paraprofessional position at Bullhead City Middle School. What would this paraprofessional be doing?
This, I will tell you that this is an example of people taking a challenge and or the proverbial taking lemons and making lemonade. So at the middle school, currently our students have only one recess. So it's 5th and 6th grade, they only have one recess, it's after lunch. About 6 weeks ago or so, the principal asked if we could have enough PE classes at the middle school so that every middle school student could have PE every day. So currently, the students have, 1/4 of the students have PE, at any given time, any given quarter of the school year. 1/4 of the students have PE. okay? Because it's one of the specials and they rotate. So I'm looking at that and I did some calculations and I'm going, I can't add six PE teachers so that every student at the middle school gets PE every day. So they went back and did some things to their schedule. So what they're proposing, and I've given my blessing to because I think they've just been really creative with this, is that they've shortened their class periods by a couple of minutes, 2 or 3, 4 minutes. They've shortened their homeroom by a few minutes and added one more period to the day. However it is that they had to adjust minutes to do that without extending the day, okay? And then created a schedule that would allow every student to have PE every day using all 7 periods. Okay, so right now, they have, I think it's 6 periods, and the PE teachers teach 5 of those 6 periods. So to make this work, they need PE to operate all 7 periods of the day. Okay, so for 6 of those periods, there would be, for 5 of those periods, it would be both PE teachers. 4 of those periods, I guess. No, 5 of those periods, it would be both PE teachers with 2 classes of kids. For 2 periods, it would be a teacher and a para, so the other teacher gets a lunch break and a prep period, okay? And then flip it, and the other teacher and the para have PE. So we're talking about a half-time position so that both of those teachers still get a prep time and a lunch time, and all of the kids get PE every day. So now they have physical activity every day in addition to their little lunch recess. Pretty creative solution with a pretty minimal cost for our kids. And so it's a half-time position, 0.5, and I am very much recommending this for our folks, and we can afford it.
What's the chances of finding somebody for a halftime position like that?
It was like when I asked you last month as part of that big plan for next year to have a part-time substitute custodian. And even though I really am convinced we need that, a part of my mind is going, how likely are we to find that? And yet when the facilities person who's been looking at, because Mark doesn't do all of these pieces anymore, the facilities person who's been looking at hiring people, he has 2 applicants already for that position. So I guess I would say based on that we probably have a pretty good chance of finding somebody who might want to work in the middle of the day for what, 2.5 hours, 3 or 4 hours, whatever, half-time.
With middle school kids.
With 5th and 6th graders.
That's about all you're
But I have to tell you, I think this was a hugely creative thing on their part,
Yes.
and to solve a tough problem and to do something really good for those kids.
Yeah.
And it's good to have PE every day.
Yeah, it
Yes.
is. Yes, it is.
Do I have a motion to add this one half-time person at middle school?
I'll make a motion that we add a halftime paraprofessional position at Bullhead City Middle School.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? I, Melinda Sabrowski.
I, Charlene Diaz.
I, Fred Rushton.
I, Barb Zarzicki.
Hi, Judy Reed.
Okay, item 7.3, contract with Chartwells for food service school year 2025-26.
And we have Christina here, who is the manager.
Hi.
She might have some answers that I don't have. I just have the documents. I did meet with Corey last week, who is the regional, he's her boss, okay, for Chartwells, and brought these documents. So, and then there was some updating that needed to be done, so we got them in time to get them in this agenda. Keep in mind, this is year 2 of essentially a 5-year contract. We put this out for bids last year to a number of vendors, and when we do that, it's always for a 5-year. So this is really, this is really an amendment to the existing contract, and there are some changes in it because of food costs and those things. So I'm not quite sure what order I have these in. Christina, would you come up close in case they have questions for you? They may or may not, but we don't have to have you running around. So if you'll just throw them in order, Cass, okay, so I think this just verifies that it's a verification. Yeah, is that what this one is, Christina? Of the price determination, and we would have to sign it. Any?
Basically the same thing as we did last year.
Yeah, I mean, we do these forms each year. Okay, and then the next one, Cass, if you would. Okay, so this is the guarantee of minimum return. So they're guaranteeing that we would have at least $150,000 on top of our expenses to them. And this amount is important to us because it helps us pay some salaries for secretaries in our district, and Kasara Mock, who is our business office person who does food service things. So it helps us pay parts of their salaries, pieces of their salaries, so that at least this amount of money then is available for us for all-day kindergarten in our M&O budget.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Under the conditions, specifies student enrollment of at least
Just
2190.
looking at that.
What happens to this if for some reason, since we are such a transient district, what happens if we go below 2190? Because I think we're really close to that right
We're
now.
pretty close to that. Cass, can you go back to superintendent's reports?
I thought we were at 2173 or something right now.
And
78.
no. Well, I don't want the monthly. The second one there, that's the the student count.
2186.
Yeah, we're slightly
yeah.
below that right now. So
So what happens?
that's a good point. Might have to have them recalculate this a bit. That's a really good catch.
Very good for him.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the other documents. That's a good catch. We'll have to work with them on that. And this is the contract. It's the amendment. It's called an amendment because year 2 is always amendment number 1, and it just summarizes all of those other documents and approval of those. And then okay, so this is their projection based on what happened is happening for the current year. They're estimating our total reimbursements to be around $1.9 million, and then they've got the expenses for the current year and the fees. And you can see that there are rebates and those things, and the surplus is $185,000, and that was not what we thought it was going to be, because remember I said we don't have the snacks, and so that's hurting us in this, because as I recall, in the original thing, it was I'm thinking it was about 200,000 or 220,000. It was a bit higher than this. Okay, right? Am I making sense of that? Yeah, it's down some. Okay. And then this is a document they have to give us that talks about the pricing per meal. The administrative fees for that Chartwell's charges us to run the program.
And you guys have thought this through with USDA and all that stuff.
Yes, that has been talked about, everything, you know, it's kind of, USDA is, hard to say what they'll do from one time to the next, but, yes, that has been part of our discussion.
We did not, am I correct in saying we did not get hit particularly hard by the drop in the local food thing?
No.
And part of that is because Chartwell's is part of Compass and it's a nationwide,
Yeah.
you know, so there's economy of scale with something that big. And we particularly did not get hit with that big cut in the funds for locally produced food products that other districts in Arizona got hit with.
So what do we do about that number?
Well, we'll have to get it fixed. So it may change our numbers a bit. So, and I'm sorry I missed that because we would have had it fixed. So we may just need to bring it back next
I was gonna
meeting.
say,
We just table it. We'll have to table it. Because we'll want accurate numbers.
Do we need a motion to table?
Yes.
Madam
Sorry.
Madam President,
Yes.
I move that we table this discussion about the contract with Chartwell's until next month.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor? I, Melinda Sobrowski.
I, Charlene Diaz.
I, Fred Rushton.
Hi, Barbara Zarzicki.
Hi, Judy Reed.
Thanks, Christina. I'm sorry I missed the little detail. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Good catch, Fred.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just lucky, just lucky.
yeah.
I'm learning from you all.
It was late at night when I read and those small numbers just sounded.
Yeah, about this time, I was like,
I didn't
Yeah.
even think of it, so.
Okay, item 7.4, contract with instructional empowerment for school year 2025-2026.
Madam President and board members, Cass, if you'll put the thing up. Last month when we talked about budgets and whatever, and my proposal for you for that whole plan for next year, we were at $1,650,000 from instructional improvement and $350,000 from M&O, down from $900,000 in the current budget. And I did indicate at the time that, given their initial proposal to me, that it might be a bit higher. It is only a bit higher. So, Cass, if you'll go to, I think it might be page 5. I could be wrong. One more page. There we go. $1,031,000. When I was working on the current budget to make the revisions for next month, I realized that I had in other lines in M&O for professional development, I had about $40,000 in other lines that were for professional development that we have not used this year. And so I thought it was not unreasonable then to get this bid with this additional $32,000 on the million. But other than that, prior to this page, you can see all of the things that are being offered this year. I did some negotiation with them because I said there's some things we have to have. And, but I said we have to come in as close to $1 million as possible. And so up and down, but this is the number that they've given us. So
Could we see some of the services
yes,
that are
please.
included in this, please?
Yes. I just wanted her to get to that because I
Right.
couldn't remember the number. Okay, so under the district leadership services, there's some new things there because we want to train this MOI coach. And IE has actually other districts have done this. And so they have a set of training for that kind of a coach. And so that's part of this district leadership team services. And then you can also see under Rigor Walk certification, you see the thing that says district leadership coaching and the Rigor leader certification. That is for the Rigor leader is what we're calling the MOI coach. So they've built into the district level training and opportunities for that person to grow and learn as they are also performing these tasks. The shared services for principals and the shared services for instructional coaches is the next step for them, which is continuing to do what they've been doing and being coached by IE people. But part of that coaching is now teaching our principals how to coach, how to work together as teams. So it would be the 3 elementary coaches and the 2, the middle and junior high principals and their coaches to start to work together so that they can do walks in their various campuses. And so you can see that training is 8 half days where the IE coaches would come and, for instance, walk with the principals as a team and teach them how to support each other. It's not so much coaching as supporting, because we have good things going on at each campus. They're not necessarily the same good things going on at each campus. So the opportunity for the principals to learn to support each other. So 3 coaches then would go walk, or 3 principals would go walk a site, visit 6 or 7 classrooms, come out and talk about how that went, and what they could do to support their people with what experience each one of them has. Same for the coaches. So they're still going to be doing, IE would still be doing the kinds of things they've been doing for 2 years, fewer days. So you can see, if we go to page 2, okay, the number of days that they would be here to actually themselves walk and coach principals or our coaches is down from 36 days to 22 in person, and still 10 days virtual, because the other 8 days that bring us back up to closer to 36, it doesn't bring us to 36, but it brings us back to 30 days, involves the principals or the coaches. So we're still getting close to the same number of days. It's cut back some because we're cutting back on our contract with them. And then you can see below that the kits and the things that they need to do, but that also includes all the training for using those. So, Cass, I'm sorry, let's go back to the previous page, please. Oh, okay, so you can see there then, what am I looking for here? No, it really is on that next page, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so you can see designing independent tasks and model of instruction 400. So our folks have had 100, 101, 201, and 301. We would be adding 401 level this year, and so that training, that's professional development for everybody, all of our teachers in the district, all of our principals, all of our coaches. And then we would still do the 3 times a year of rigor appraisal at all sites. So it looks like it's 1 day it looks like it's 1 day. It's not. You can see the schools listed above, and so you can see that it's one per site, and that's what we were doing this year. That's the same as this year. And then the resources when they teach a new strategy. So like the 401. Then there are the teaching kits that we have for them. The DL suites are online things for record keeping and for tracking any of the work that they're doing. And we've been doing the earlier version of 4DL, yeah. So we've been doing 3DL this year. We'd be doing 4DL next year. And so those are licenses for them to use software to track data. For how their kids are doing and what's going on in the classroom. So what's really, the biggest change here is the drop in number of days that they will be on sites and dropping from full days to half days, but then increasing the days that they are going into the classrooms that have a slightly different purpose.
So the overall goal of this is whoever the model instruction person is going to be is going to be able to, she'll be trained or he'll be trained in this IE, and then eventually they will be able to take over for
Yes,
IE
for year
and
4.
continue the best
Yes,
practices.
yes, so we're
that they've
talking
been
about
working
this,
on.
yes, so we're talking about this being the last year of contract with IE, and training the person who will then move into the role of all the current coaches that we have who come. So we have 2 coaches that come for principals, we have 2 coaches who come and work with coaches right now, and then they also, they bring in whoever needs to come in to do the PD. So what we're looking at is that MOI is going to be replacing, in year 4, replacing those 4 coaches and moving along with what we, and sustaining what people have already learned.
So this is gonna be the last year of expenditure for IE then?
Yes, that's our proposal.
Okay, I got a counter proposal. Earlier, remember when I was saying, I want to go back to these things for Jen? Can we pull those back up?
Sure. Okay, Jen's gonna have to tell you which piece it is. That one right there, wasn't it that, for math?
Well, it does,
It
yeah,
doesn't matter.
Go down to the, well, maybe this is, there were so many of these. Keep going. Keep going.
No, that's
That's
it.
it? Okay. There was another page that had a lot more of the percentages on it.
Well, this is ELA. You probably want to see the math one.
Maybe the math one.
Yeah.
I don't need to see the math one. Because it does.
Oh, the district one?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was the PowerPoint, yeah.
Wasn't it the district one?
No, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, starts in here somewhere. All right, we'll just take this one, for example.
Okay.
Okay? We have $1,032,000. What I'm suggesting is that we let the teachers who we have hired as professionals do their job. With the caveat that for example, this 15% is what they're shooting for. To get their share of that $1,032,000, they have to bring it up 15 or more percent. And let the teacher, who is the professional who we have hired to do the job, do their job. They have the standards. They have to teach the standards. We have a brand-new program where they can choose their benchmarks, so they can actually set up interventions. I'm saying that if the teachers brought this up 15% or the 20% or whatever else the other percentages were, that I would be willing to pay them the bonus for doing that.
We can't pay a bonus.
Well,
We can
okay,
do
it's
incentives.
the
You're
wrong
right,
word.
performance
I'm
pay.
sorry, it's the
Performance
wrong
pay.
word.
Exactly, but yes,
But
I see what you're
basically,
saying.
Yeah,
it's
performance incentive.
Yeah,
to pay
performance
them
pay.
for doing their job, for doing the goals that Jen has set, or the Jen's committee has set. I'm sure she didn't do this by herself. That's my suggestion. I think.
Problem with that, it's
Okay,
gonna be
yeah,
that.
that's okay.
The problem with that is that we have had such an influx of new teachers. Back in my day when I taught or administrator, we always call those best practices. We've kind of gotten away from that. When you have all these new people that are coming in, they're not necessarily teaching best practices. And so in order to make sure that that's what they're doing, we really need to have someone that
We have
is
instructional coaches.
the what?
We have the instructional coaches. And then we have this person who's going to be over the instructional coaches to make sure that these things get done.
But in order for them to do that, they have to be trained to do that.
Okay, the instructional coaches have been around for forever.
Yes, they have,
Okay,
but
they have
education
had
has
a
changed.
lot of training.
But
No, they've
education
had a
has
lot-
changed.
They've had a lot of training. Okay, and you can't tell me that that there's not a master teacher at every grade level. If there isn't a master teacher at every grade level, then basically we are in serious trouble.
Well, I can't say that there's a master teacher at every grade level. I can't say that. But because there's too many new ones. There's too many new teachers that have not been trained in best practices.
Okay, so then basically we have a master teacher who is now a mentor teacher.
Who are you talking about? I mean, what are you referring to?
Do you agree that we probably have a master teacher at every level?
At every grade level?
Uh-huh.
No. I can't say that without knowing every single teacher. I can't say that.
I'm just saying that I would prefer keeping $1,032,000 here in Bullhead City, giving it to the people who are not flying in as experts. I would prefer coming up with a homegrown system or something that works with these percentages. We've got the percentages. Now we just say, and we have the testing program. We have this brand new testing program. So basically, we say to the teachers.
Belinda, for 28 years I've been in this district, we have tried different things. And we've never stuck one out. We've never stayed with one more than a couple years. And we've already seen improvement.
We have not seen improvement. I'm sorry. There's
Desert
no
Valley just walked away last year with an A. That's improvement.
But that doesn't necessarily.
All the other
first
principals,
year, i.e.
all the other principals, when they shared their scores and whatever at the last meeting, all talked about improvements that they've seen. Maybe baby steps, but they've seen improvement. We have to give them a chance to continue to make those improvements.
$1,032,000.
I don't like to spend money any more than you do. I really don't. But if we're asking principals, instructional coaches, and teachers, we're expecting X, Y, Z, then we need to be able to willing to back them and support them. And if it costs money, then it's going to cost money.
Let me insert a fact here. $650,000 of that $1,033,000 cannot be given to salaries, cannot be given as improvement. It has to be spent on professional development. Okay?
Then we do
That's just a
professional
fact, that's what I'm.
To bring up the 15%. I'm just saying that I think $1,032,000 should stay here. It shouldn't go east with 4 people.
It's not.
They're providing us a
Okay,
whatever.
Whatever,
You know,
however,
it's-
Carolyn, I don't
Yeah, I
care
know.
how many people.
I know.
You know, it's no different than bringing in some other program or some other service to help us. They're not all going to be here in Bullhead City.
No.
So
Okay.
we have to
I'm just
ship them in,
saying-
so to speak.
I'm just saying that, no.
I think that we need to complete the program as set, because at least if you had a 3-year plan, let's finish a 3-year plan and see what the outcome will be. If you don't, I'm kind of with Charlene, I've seen so many things started and then dropped, and started and then dropped. It sounded like the wonderful thing, and, you know, and all the bells and whistles, and nobody ever completed it. And I've seen it happen and happen and happen, not just, I mean, in every school system. And so I think you need to complete the program. If this was a 3-year program, which was committed to, I think it should be completed as a 3-year program.
I have a problem with it because I went back and I looked at the cohort scores and the test scores for these students, and I'm sorry, but when we don't have at least 30% of our students at all grade levels being in the passing grade level, there's something wrong, and they're not there. I was looking at the year right after COVID, and the scores were higher then than they are now. And to me, that doesn't say these guys are improving our scores at all for our students. I mean, 2021, the scores, the state testing scores for our students were higher than they are as of the benchmarks are higher then than they are now. And for $1,032,000, I feel our teachers need a raise on their base salary before.
But we can't use that money for raises.
But we can for
It's still
350,000 of it we could.
300,000 of it.
I'm gonna tell you, Barb, there's no correlation between teacher salaries and student outcome. I've never
No.
seen any research on it. Is there correlation between teacher salaries and hiring
Yes.
of teachers? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a direct relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
But there's no correlation between teacher salaries and student
Yeah,
outcome.
I'm not seeing the correlation here for the student outcome either.
So raising salaries, and we've been raising, I think Carolyn did a nice job explaining that, they have been
2%
getting
a year,
raises.
2% a year.
I remember the days when
Oh,
we
I
didn't get
remember when
any.
we didn't even get steps, I do too.
I mean, I wanna remember, I
Yeah.
think there was like 8 years there that we
Yeah, we
didn't
didn't
get
even
any
get a step or
raises.
anything. Oh, yes, I
So,
remember those days.
You know, 2% is
But-
better than nothing.
Yeah,
But
but I just,
I mean, I'd love to see teachers get,
yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I think
would
they should be
too.
paid way more than what
Oh, we all do, you know,
we can.
teachers,
But-
we know that.
But you can only
But-
do what you can
Yeah.
only do, what you have.
Yeah, but like
And-
I'm saying, I just,
The bottom
Personally.
line is we're telling teachers and we're telling instructional coaches and principals that we want our scores to improve.
Mhm.
Well, if we're not willing to provide funding to help them change whatever it is that we're doing, in this case, our best practices, if we don't help them do that and pay the funding to do that, then how are we any better than the state when they mandate stuff to us and aren't willing to provide funding for it? You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
just,
but-
I know it's a lot of money. It's a heck of a
Yeah.
lot of money.
But like you said, you know, we hire professionals here, and every teacher has their own teaching style that, I mean, I know when I was teaching 8th grade math with another 8th grade math teachers, we were two totally different styles of teaching. And she would not have been comfortable using my style, and I was not comfortable using her style. But with this, we're telling the teachers, this is the style of teaching you have to use. And maybe some teachers are excellent teachers, but they're just not comfortable with it, so their scores are not gonna be improving because they're not able to relate to their students like they should be able to.
Not changing their style. You're changing how you are teaching the subject. Are you effectively teaching? That's what it's all about, is effectively teaching whatever the subject is. And unfortunately, when you have new teachers,
Yes.
they don't always have that. I mean, you know, the colleges don't always teach
No.
those things. And so it's up to us to make sure that they do, that we show them how to effectively teach math or effectively teach ELA.
Well, that's what our coaches are for.
I understand that, and that's why they're going through this training as well as the principals. Because somewhere along the line, we've lost that best practices. And in order for us to get that back, we've been sitting here, you know, knocking our heads against the wall going, what are we doing? What are we missing? We brought in IE to tell us what, you know, what it is that we're missing. And they've, in my book, they've shown us some things that we need to work on. And in order to continue to make those improvements. And yes, some schools they're baby steps.
Mhm.
Desert Valley is kind of the,
Yeah.
you know, aha. But we have to continue that process for one more year to allow those other schools to make some bigger gains. And I know it's a lot of money, Barb. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
But I mean, I'm not real happy with our eighth graders going off to the high school with
Oh, no.
the scores that they have.
Not at all.
But we have to do something to improve those scores. So I mean, I like the idea that, okay, this is gonna be our last year, and we're going to train those principals, train those instructional coaches, train this new position, and they're gonna continue that process forward. And hopefully, we maintain enough of our teachers that we don't have to keep, you know, retraining, although we may wind up with new teachers. But I like that piece of it. But I think we still have to take this last step. Because, again, change does not happen, change takes 3 to 5 years. And we're starting our 3rd year. And we have to give them time to show us that, okay, this program has worked, and this is what we're doing.
Fred, you're the only one who hasn't said anything. Do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
Well, again, you guys have much greater insight than I do, but I do remember when we were first considering IE, that Kevin, I believe, was the gentleman's name. He came and he stood right there and he told us that it is a process and it was going to take 3 years to get through the process. And I understand that that's an awful lot of money, but 650,000 or whatever that amount was not touchable by us anyway. So the only thing that we could do is divert those M&O funds into salaries if that's what we elect to do. But I think I agree with Charlene and Judy that we should see this thing through. That's just my thought, because it's
Okay,
I don't want to see the style. I was really sold on IE the first time I ever went into a classroom at middle school. And I saw those kids sitting in that pod of the 4 desks, and they were interacting with each other. They were respectful, they were supportive, they were encouraging with each other. And that's not the kind of education I remember from when I went to school. I sat there in a desk in the same old wooden chair that I hated at the end of the day because my bottom hurt. And you know, I got the lecture. Of course I learned how to do things, and they demonstrated and stuff. But if what I saw is truly the model of instruction that we're going to end up pursuing, I'm all for it, because I couldn't believe the engagement and the enthusiasm of the students. And I know that one of the things that is the most difficult thing to overcome, that I have done a little teaching myself of apprenticeship classes. And if you don't have the students' engagement and the students' interest, they're not going to benefit. You're going to get your pay whether or not, right? But the student engagement, I think, is so critical to giving them a fair chance at having a decent life, getting a good education. So that's my thought.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Then I need a motion to approve the contract for IE for instructional empowerment for school year 2025-26.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with IE for the 25-26 school year.
I'll second the motion.
I usually say all those in favor, all those in favor, and I'm going to vote no.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm
Take a
voting
vote.
no.
Oh, Charlene, yes.
Aye, Fred Rushton.
Barb Zarzicki, no?
Judy Reed, yes.
Okay. Item 7.5, Title I Chromebooks bid.
Madam President and board members, I could have put this in my positive list of things from the superintendent's report, but it's its own item and it's pretty exciting. So the technology department would like to award Title I Chromebooks bid to GovConnection in the amount of $200,962.75. And this gets us a heck of a lot of Chromebooks. And you can see these were the various bids. And you can see the point system. So we always establish, when we have this kind of thing, we establish a rubric ahead of time before we open the bids. Jen was involved with this with James, and so you can see that Connection, Acer, and Connection also had put in a bid for Lenovo's. But you can see that the highest points were for the Acers. And I'm sorry, I don't remember how many we're getting, but it's a heck of a lot. Jen?
564, something in that ballpark.
A lot of them. Okay. So I recommend that we accept this bid.
Any discussion?
May I ask a question of our IT person, if it's permitted? Hi, thank you. I'm not quite, I don't know much about Acer. Is Acer the brand that we would be getting?
Yeah, my apologies. I should have included a little more information in there yet. That particular brand that was proposed was Acer, and that's the manufacturer of the
Right.
Chromebook. We had several different manufacturers represented, Hewlett-Packard, Lenovo, several others. We did put out a minimum specification of what we expected, and we got back a myriad of responses to that. The models were kind of all over the place in that, and some of the scores reflect that. Some of the models were not quite as robust as others. Some of the vendors put a little more information in their packet than others did, and so that's kind of why you see the scores kind of all over the place. And we felt that the Acer Chromebook that was proposed is going to be sturdy enough to handle some of the environments that our students are going to put it in, and have enough hardware in there that we could hopefully get 5 to 7 years out of it before it became kind of unusable.
And in the event that something goes wrong, will they have any kind of a warranty or anything?
Yes, our minimum was a 1-year warranty with mail-in support. So we try to keep a lot of the stuff in-house. If a screen needs to be repaired or a battery needs to be replaced, we like to handle that here and not ship it off. And in looking at the warranty support that we got with the Acer, they kind of have both ways. So we could mail in a Chromebook if it needed some work done on it, but also if it was a part that we felt like we could replace, they would just mail us a new part and we could fix it. But even after that 1 year, if something went wrong with it, parts are still going to be available and we could, buy them as needed. As a general rule with the Chromebooks, after the first year, if anything major gets broke on it, we don't generally repair it. When you figure, a new screen or a new motherboard is 50% of the price that you paid for
Right.
it, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to to make that repair, but if we can pick up a new battery for $35-40, well, then that kind of makes sense to me.
Right, understand. Okay, cool, thank you.
So
Answered
do
my
we
question.
do a replacement, a cycle of replacement, like 50 books this year and 50 books the next?
Right.
Okay.
I personally do not prescribe what the schools should dispose of or recycle. We put out what we would recommend, but, you know, I'm not in the classroom, I'm not a school administrator, so I try not to say this is what you must do at your school. But yeah, we do have a number of Chromebooks that are no longer receiving updates, no longer receiving security patches, and cannot run some of the applications that we need. And so as these new ones go out, we're kind of bringing some of those old ones in, and they get recycled. Sometimes we can get a little bit of money when we recycle them, sometimes we can't. But yeah, that's kind of our plan, is we send the new ones out and hopefully bring some of the other ones in that are no longer usable.
Our librarians are reluctant to give them up, even if we cannot update them anymore. But we also have some of the ones that are older that we use, like with kindergarten and first grade. Because if they will still run programs that are suitable for those, and they might not be able to be updated, but if they will still use it. So we have, right now, I think it's safe to say we have more Chromebooks than we have students. But that means that we have them in the places that we need them, so.
There were a lot of them on the list.
Yes,
Disposal list.
yes, there were.
And
That's
those
why
are
I
a lot of
thought-
those Chromebooks that I mentioned that have not received security patches in a while, or not received Chrome OS updates. So a Chromebook basically is just Chrome browser installed on a purpose-built computer.
Yeah.
That's really all it runs is Chrome. And many of the programs that we use and that are designed specifically to work on Chromebooks, they're a very affordable device. You know, I can remember not too long ago when, you know, a 30 workstation computer for a classroom was, you know, $28,000-$30,000, and now we're buying Chromebooks for $300 a unit instead of $800 a unit for a Windows computer. So.
The other thing I will tell you is that the funding we're using for this, the state sent to us, I'm not sure leftover is the right kind of money, but the funding for this and a few more dollars than this, I think it was $280,000, is money, title money that was not spent in fiscal year '23. So we have to use it or we lose it. And so this is a good opportunity for us to, you know, to start replacing some Chromebooks and get that rotation going.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you
James.
very much.
Do I have a motion to award the contract for Title I Chromebooks?
I make a motion, we award Title I Chromebook bid to,
Acer.
it was something Acer.
It's Gov
Oh,
Connection.
yeah.
Acer Chrome.
Gov Connection.
Bid to Gov Connection, the Acer Chromebooks, for $200,962.75.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? I, Melinda Sabrowski.
Hi, Charlene Diaz.
I, Fred Rushton.
I, Barb Zarzicki.
Hi, Judy Reed.
Item 7.6, updated job descriptions. Well, we have one.
Well, we know
that's
one
all
we're-
the way off the system.
One I'm going to withdraw from consideration for right now. The student achievement one, this one is the one that I told you that it has been an approved position. It's been kind of on hold because we've not been able to find somebody. But there are things in this job description that we've needed to have happening, and Kate has done them when she can. She was involved in revising this from what it was before, and she probably can do a better job of answering any questions you might have about this one than I can, if you want to ask her those things. But we really are hopeful that we can find somebody for this position this year. We really desperately need somebody to be coaching, specifically coaching our special ed people.
Kate, this would be for all grade levels, right?
Yes, the position would cover preschool through 8th grade. It would cover all programming, so life skills, behavior resource, the resource classrooms. They would work with the special education teachers who are new, because we do have some new teachers coming from overseas. They will work with them on how to run an IEP meeting here in the United
Yeah.
States, how to write an IEP that is compliant and legal by U.S. standards. They will work with the teachers in the classrooms in developing visual schedules, things like that for students, help them work on behaviors to try and extinguish some of the behaviors that we have going on in the schools. And really just do a lot of the things for the teachers that I can't get out and do on a daily basis because of Life Academy commitments and the director position commitments that I have every day. So I'm really, my fingers are crossed, my toes and eyes, that I can find somebody this year, because our special education teachers, like, they want the training, they want the help, they want those things. And I'm hoping we can find somebody to help to facilitate that for next year.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, oh, wait a minute. Anybody else have any questions for Kate?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry, Kate.
Thank you.
I just said thank you and
Go sit down.
I didn't ask the board. Okay, so I'm going to ask for approval for instructional coach for student achievement.
I make
This
a
is a
motion
special
that
ed.
we,
I'm sorry?
Go
for it.
Go ahead, Shirley.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we accept the description for the instructional coach for student achievement and find one. Might
I'll
say.
second that.
All those in favor? I'm Melinda Sobrowski.
I, Charlene Diaz.
I, Fred Rushton.
Hi, Barbara Zarzicki.
Hi, Judy Reed.
Okay, this is the first reading for this 7.7 policy advisory for IHA, Basic Instructional Program. We talked about this in the workshop, right?
Uh-huh.
So we're going to talk about it next meeting. 7.8 policy advisory for JLIF, sex offender notification. This is the first reading in a public meeting, so we'll talk about this one next time. Closing items, 8.1, future topics. Is there anything that the board would like to have Dr. Stewart prepare for us? I really appreciate the kids from Life Academy.
I know.
Yes.
It would be really nice if I could get use their first name, Kate maybe, and so I can send them a personal
Oh, absolutely.
thank you note for that. So if you can do that for me, I appreciate that.
And we'll have another school next month.
Can't wait.
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
It's
All right.
already
Awesome.
planned.
Good.
Which one? Or is it a
I knew
secret?
you'd ask me that.
It's a secret. Never mind.
Yes, it is a secret.
Okay.
We want to surprise you.
I really appreciate
Surprise.
seeing that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm extremely pleased with the fact that our Life Academy is functioning the way that I have viewed it needed to function for 15 years. I mean, for a long time.
I was very impressed with
Oh.
those kids.
Most
The kids
definitely.
are, the students are benefiting from this opportunity to turn themselves around. And I think you saw two really good examples tonight.
Yes.
Congratulations.
I'm glad that we didn't see them in an executive session.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, any
Well, that
other-
has a lot to do with Miss Hall.
It
Yes.
does.
It does.
Absolutely.
Does very
She
much.
She needs a pat or
Starts
two
Very
on the
much.
back.
Yeah.
I will tell you that the crew that works in there, I mean, Mr. Schnabel is working on his teaching degree. He's a long-term sub right now, but we keep him in there because he's amazing working with those kids.
And I'm sorry, who is the little one?
Oh, I don't know, the three that look younger than the students, the
Yeah.
three paraprofessionals.
The little one is Miss Dowling, and she's actually in college right now to get her math degree. And her future goal is to teach college level math.
She has more energy. I can just tell. I just thought, no. We're here at 8:30 at night. No, you don't.
All of
Anyway,
the staff in Life
but-
Academy are in school currently to become or speech pathologists.
What a
So
nice
something
thing.
of that
Thank you.
Growing
Good.
our own, growing our
Good.
own. But they look younger than the kids,
Yeah, they do.
don't they? Yeah.
Okay, 8.2, upcoming board events. I'm not sure. Is there anything special on here that we need to attend?
Yeah, you just want to be sure you put on your calendar promotion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when is it?
What is that?
Scroll on
Promotion.
down if you would, please. There you go.
Oh, right there. May
Okay.
20th?
May 20th.
May 20th,
At the
okay.
field house.
Is it for your promotion?
I have my calendar, I put it on there. Okay.
8:30, okay.
Do we get this? Huh? Do we get this?
Oh, thank you. May
Yes, in our-
2nd, staff appreciation, that Friday. And so Cass has been working hard to get things
believe it
nice
is.
for you guys, and at
8:30
Coyote-
a.m.
it'll be at Coyote Canyon Cafeteria,
What?
and
What time is that for?
11 a.m.,
Okay.
When's that?
May 2nd,
May 2nd. Okay.
May 2nd is a what?
Friday.
Good Friday.
Yep.
Perfect, it's a
May
perfect
2nd.
time.
Yep, perfect day.
I'm out of town all week long when the promotion comes, but I'll try to make the 2nd.
Okay. And that's also Teacher Appreciation Week, so, it's a good, it
Good
works.
time to
It's a
visit.
good time. It's a good time to have
May
staff appreciation.
11 a.m.
Which time?
May 2nd, 11 for the staff appreciation
Yeah, 11 though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
at Coyote.
Item 8.3, date, time, location for future meeting. The next meeting we have on calendar is May 15. Anybody
Ooh.
not be able to be there?
I'm gonna have to check to see if that's the day I have to have the revised budget in. I just now thought of that.
Before that date or that day?
I'll have to check. They're usually, it has to be approved by the 15th and submitted by the 18th.
Okay, so we'll be okay.
So we can approve it that
We'll
night.
just be okay.
Okay.
Okey dokey.
Thanks, Cass.
Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
All those in favor? I'm Melinda Sobrowski.
Hi, Charlene Diaz.
Hi, Fred Rushton.
Hi, Barb Zarzicki.
Hi, Judy Reed, and I want to thank you. It's my first early meeting.
You mean you're gonna be home before 10 o'clock? Yeah.
Thank you, Cassie, for updating my book.
Yes, thank you, Cassie.
Yes, indeed.
I thought you had just had been lying to me.
It's all because of you that we got on our book. Remember that we didn't have one.